the Oxford Public Schools School Committee meeting of Monday, November 14th, 2022. This meeting's being videotaped by Oxford Cable Access and broadcast live on the town's public access educational channel 194, which is also streamed live on the Cable Access webpage on the Town of Oxford website. The video recording may be viewed subsequent to the live broadcast via the education channel on the town's video on-demand website, which may be accessed by a link from either the Town of Oxford website or the Oxford Public School website. The meeting agenda and complete informational meeting packet and subsequent meeting minutes may be viewed on the Oxford Public Schools website. So I do want to call the meeting to order. At this time, I would like to open the floor to public comment. Comments are limited to topics relating to school business. Speakers must identify themselves by name and address and will be allowed to speak for up to 3 minutes. Although the school committee may hear comments on unanticipated topics, discussion or action on topics not specifically listed on the agenda will be postponed until a further future meeting date. At this time, the floor is open for public comment. Seeing and hearing none, we will close this portion of the public comment, and we'll move right down the agenda because we have a busy agenda tonight, and we'll turn it over to Genevieve Bartlett, our student rep. Genevieve.
Alright, so at the high school, NHS collected over 3,000 pairs of new socks for our 8th annual Socktober. We donated them to the Oxford Food Shelf, Blessed Backpack Brigade in Webster, Project New Hope in Worcester, and Veterans Incorporated in Worcester. This month we hope to collect 1,000 pairs of gloves to donate to those in need. The class of 2024 is hosting a fundraiser at Oxford Casual Dining on Wednesday, November 16th from 4 to 8. Email Miss Nugent for a flyer. The seniors are hosting a large event on Saturday, December 10th called the Oxford Holiday Extravaganza. This will consist of a breakfast with Santa as well as a large craft and vendor fair. We have over 40 vendors secured already and expect many more to participate. This event will be from 10 to 3. It is free to enter and shop, but the breakfast with Santa and the event which is from 10 to 12, will be $5 per person. We hope to see many members from the community come out for this exciting holiday event, and if any senior parents or students want to help out at the event, they can reach out to Ms. Castingway. Yearbooks continue to be on sale and are currently $55. The price will go up through the year, so students should jump on getting their yearbook for the cheaper price. Students and families can reach out to Ms. Castingway for the link to order a book, and senior parents can also reach out to Ms. Castingway about purchasing an ad space in the yearbook. Student Council is currently running its annual turkey run, and we are collecting canned goods along with other Thanksgiving meal ingredients to donate to the food shelf. We'll be delivering donations every Wednesday up until Christmas vacation to help families for both Thanksgiving and Christmas. Any student or staff member that brings in donations and cans can bring them to Ms. Castaway in the library. And also, Student Council recently had our Trunk or Treat / Haunted Hallway event. We had a great turnout and many positive reviews on the Oxford Residence Forum, and it was a good success. As for the middle school, the annual NJHS Toy Drive will be held from November 28th to December 2nd and will be brought to the police station for community distribution. The Student Council wrapped up their food drive and trick-or-treat for the troops last week. OMS was able to donate non-perishable items to the Oxford Food Shelf. OMS also donated 75 pounds of candy to Veterans Incorporated. Thank you to all who donated, and thank you to Mrs. Mayo's 2nd and 4th graders for their card donations. Oxford Middle School will present Matilda Jr. on Friday, November 18th at 7 o'clock and Saturday, November 19th at 3 o'clock. Tickets are $7 for adults and $5 for students and senior citizens. Tickets are available at the door. Yearbooks are still on sale for $25, and orders this year are online only. Order forms can be found in the electronic backpack. For Art Club, Session 1 Art Club members have been creating props for the musical and drawing and painting after school each week. The Green Team has begun collecting recyclables for the school on Friday mornings. 7th grade students have been excited and working hard. And OMS Esports is starting their winter season. This year, OMS Esports is excited to announce we have joined the MA Esports League, where we will be playing against other middle schools in our chosen game, Rocket League. Esports athletes on the OMS team will also have access to coaching from the professional esports team Cloud9 that will help them improve in knowledge and play skills. The esports coaches and team are excited to bring OMS Esports to the next level this winter in this incredible opportunity. That's it. That was a lot.
Yes, that was. Great job, Genevieve. Any questions for Genevieve from our committee members?
Dave,
Thank you. Oh, yes.
Just a quick comment. I think always impressed with the number of opportunities we have for students across the district, but tonight to hear how many of those organizations are doing stuff to give back to the community is fantastic. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Genevieve. At this time, I'd like to have, we're going to get a safety update from Sergeant Jeremy Grenett from the Oxford Police Department. Sergeant Grenett, welcome.
Good evening. Should I move the microphone closer?
Probably a little closer, yeah, so you can hear you.
All right.
There you go.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
ladies and gentlemen of the board, good evening. Thanks for having me. People at home, for anybody that doesn't know me, Jeremy Grenett, Sergeant, Oxford PD, School Resource Officer. We're here to talk about our school safety, some of the things that we've been doing. I'm gonna give out some information and then open it up so everybody can ask some questions and gather more information. So, school safety obviously is a community-wide endeavor, and it's perpetual. It's a year-round thing. We're into the school year right now, a couple months, and I can honestly say I'm happy to report that your building leaders have been very active and engaged in the safety of their own buildings. And we'll go back to some summer conversations that I had with Mr. Lucas, some great things that we talked about. And in moving forward, our ALICE trainings, our people in our buildings and our building leaders have all been trained and updated. We have, in every building, we now have certified people who are updated, who can perpetuate these functions for us, because as you know, we're not in the buildings all day long, and the buildings are intimate to the schools and the staff and everybody involved in that. So if they have the training, we can help facilitate that, which Mr. Lucas was right on board, and I thank him for that. We got people trained right away this summer, and right into it with the ALICE updates with your staff and with your building leaders. Officer Mercier and Officer Gray have been great in that function, also helping present kind of some extensions of myself. We all kind of tag team and get together and do those things. So I'm just happy to say that everybody's buying in. Across the boards in your schools, your principals, vice principals, deans, and the staff is open-minded. So we need that. We need to have everybody on the same page and buying in, and everybody understands how paramount safety is in our schools. So I'm happy to say that about the ALICE program. Also, over the course of the summer, we updated our emergency guide, and that's also departments all getting together. Our school staff and our police, fire, EMS, and people, everybody in the community, DPW, everybody's involved in creating the safety guide, and it's an internal document that you can all refer to. We look at it, we go over it with a fine-tooth comb together every year, and we bring some revisions, and thanks to Helen, we get it back together quickly, ready for the school year. So I'm happy to say that we've been perpetuating that function. The safety committee gets together, everybody puts their eyes on it, and everybody that has input gets to bring that to the table, and we act on it. And like I said, Mr. Lucas was very active when we have had some newer administrators coming into our schools. We needed to get these people trained so that they understand the functions of the ALICE program and how their buildings work, and being able to look at their buildings with a wider scope of to how ALICE applies in those buildings and how the students are handled at those levels. We have some stuff that we were able to get out just recently about age appropriateness. Parents also was a great document, just a quick, here's what we do in our expectations. So we've done that. Ms. Hutchinson enjoyed being able to put this out to her parents and to her staff, so it's a helpful document, and everything has been revised and updated. So I'm happy to say things I think are going well. I like what I see in your buildings. I like the attention that your administrators have to it. We're an extension of them at this point, and that's what we want to see. We want to see the building leaders taking control of their buildings and understanding their safety and their environments and bringing us in, and we can have conversations and facilitate and continue to move forward and progress in all of these buildings. And I will speak from what I've seen, they're engaged in it, and we're constantly in conversations. I think weekly, multiple times a week, I talk to a different building leader about what we're going to do to perpetuate these things. So, and I'm happy to say when I get out and walk around these buildings, I like what I see. And I think things are going very well. So from my standpoint, from an outsider coming in, and I feel like I am part of your staff and part of your family, but I have the opportunity to step back and look from the outside and then get a chance to come inside and see it also. So what I'm seeing when I walk in these hallways is, The doors are secured. We've checked those things from the outside, and people inside are actively involved in, in the flow of the building. And I like what I've been seeing. You can hear a pin drop in most of these buildings. So, and I think it's going to continue to flow from that. So, it's been nice so far this year. And we continue to look into technology and equipment and all of those things to keep up with the times, as always. So, like I said, I like what I see, and I'm open to hearing any questions or comments or concerns from the board.
First of all, it's great to hear. Thank you, Sergeant Grenett. Any questions? Yes, Mrs. Forbes?
Mine's not a question, just appreciation for you and the other officers for the Oxford Police Department and the presence at the schools every day, high-fiving the students, making that community connection is huge. When I'm there early in the morning and one of the police officers walks in, the kids run to them. It's so great to see. So I appreciate that. I think it's hugely important for our community overall, but for students to get to know police officers on a personal level. And that's not common everywhere, so
Right,
thank you
those
for
little
that.
things, presence, visibility, those go a lot further than you can even quantify. Right, those officers that are at those elementary schools every day giving those high fives, they now have been doing it for so long that some of these kiddos are getting into middle school and high school, but they remember the names, they remember those high fives every morning coming in, and that smile on the face and the uniform and the officer and the badge, and the parents see that. They drop off their children and they see an officer out there, and a kid smiles when they see the officer, gives the high fives, or is in there in breakfast in the morning, or comes in for the reading days and things like that. The community policing aspect and the contact and the visibility is also paramount to safety, right? You don't always look at it in your safety guide. We don't have that in our emergency guide. Officers will be visible and put a smile on these kids' faces. But that helps. That helps the parents feel more comfortable and confident in the schools, in the police department, and overall within the community. So it's a great point, and we really appreciate that you recognize and notice that. Specifically, Officer Pickard and Officer Mead, that's their thing. We all chip in too, but they've got their school specifically, and they take pride and ownership in it. Trunk or treat.
I
When
heard.
Officer Pickard was asked to go to Barton School, that's Officer Mead's territory. So.
But from what I heard, he opened up his cruiser, so he smoothed everything over and let the students really explore, which again is amazing.
But great point, and that does equate to safety or the mindset in the community and in the kids and the parents. So it's a great point. Thank you.
Anything else? Mr. Burke?
Just a couple of questions, Jeremy. Thank you. Your time in the buildings, you said, are there any facility updates, things that we should be looking at long-term in your mind that for any of the buildings?
Well, we've always, been big on technology. Anytime you can get cameras in corners, and in places where you see any vulnerabilities, but, this has been done over the last couple of years. These buildings have been updated in that way. Anytime we see anything mechanically, physically, or environmentally that we think, like if there's a window or a door where, every time we do an Alice drill or an update, we always go through and we have a little punch list of things. So, but your facilities has been great. And I'll go back about 5 years ago when we really laid out some safety protocols and went room to room to room. We did, myself and Officer Mercier did customized room and teacher evaluations. And the facilities department and the custodial was right on it. If a file cabinet was in front of a window or a door, or even impeding anything that we thought might be helpful or advantageous, that was moved. If a window needed a lock fixed, so those things they were very attended to about 5 years ago, and now perpetuated. Every time we do a drill, we look for those certain things.
Yeah.
And there's always a little something, but I think we're doing very well as far as environmentally and physically with our safety, technology, and equipment.
Awesome. And the other things, and my kids talk about seeing you guys in the buildings all the time, so I love that, and I love the presence. But one of our goals as a school committee we've talked about is a full-time SRO dedicated just to the schools system.
Right.
From your perspective, what do we need to do to get that?
Well, I know
done?
that Mr. Lucas could probably comment. He's had conversations with the chief, and
Yes.
I would turn it over
Yeah,
to
Chief
Mr.
Stadd and I spoke again today about it, so he is retiring in June, so we'd like to leave this decision for the next person. But I think it's important for us to go through in our budget to promote this if it's something that the school committee wishes to have in their budget. And then on that side, they're gonna have to find a new chief of police and try to get into their budget with the town manager and talk about it on their side as well. So We're gonna go for there. So when we propose our budget to you, we will include it as something that you guys wanna see. We'll just have to go from there. It's gonna take time, though, to find an officer. We had talked about that a little bit before.
Yep.
To go through to find the right person for the position, so we'll have to start down that road.
Awesome.
So,
It definitely takes the right person, but to that point, I think we both are on the same page, you know, as far as the school department and the police department. It's a priority, and it's something that we definitely want to talk about and look forward to the future, and hopefully can make it happen.
Yeah.
I think it's
Awesome.
important.
Thank you.
Anything else for Sergeant Gurnett? All right, thank you.
That was easy. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate you coming in.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jeremy.
Always nice to see you.
Thank you very much. And I mean that, I like what I see this year, so
That's great.
it feels good. Thank you.
Good.
Kid looks good, by the way, I like it.
No shave November.
January 1st, we have until January 1st.
Oh, you get it till
January.
January 1st, all right, enjoy it.
The extension.
All right, at this time, moving down the agenda, the unsung heroes of any school, the parents, the parent group. So I'm not sure who we have represented, but why don't we, if there's anyone from Chafee, why don't we have the Chafee group come first? Could you just let us know who you are and welcome.
Thank you. My name is Kate Gustafson. I'm the president of Chafee PTO.
I'm Jackie Hall. I'm the vice president of the Chafee PTO.
We have 6 other board members who could not be here this evening, so there's 8 of us total this year.
Nice.
Yeah, so we have a really great group. We have a very busy group. So events we put on throughout the year. We started our year off with our Welcome Back Ice Cream Social. We have grade-specific events. So the kindergarten gets a pumpkin hunt in the fall. First grade gets Polar Express around the holidays. So Mr. P will read the book to them. They each get a little bell. And then they go back to their classrooms for milk and cookies. Grade 2 gets an end-of-the-year ice cream send-off before they leave us. We do a bingo for books event where we play bingo, kids win a book, everyone goes home with a book that night. Our holiday shop, which we're starting to get ready for, kids come in and do all their Christmas shopping for their families. Our big end of the year is the field day. We're outside all day, weather permitting. Lots of games, events. They get freeze pops at the end of the day. They had a lot of fun last year. It's great too because we can now start to get back to normal with COVID restrictions lifting. So we've been able to do all of these fun events. Teacher Appreciation Week, last year we did a whole week of things. We did nacho bar, gift cards where each teacher got to pick a gift card. One of our big events / fundraisers is our Family Fun Night that we do in the spring. Families came and we had a face painter, balloon artist, bounce houses. We had food trucks come. Mr. P allowed people to throw pie in his face. It's a great time. But all of this wouldn't be possible without fundraisers. So we do our, last year it was 2 for Chafee. This year we partnered with Barton. We call it Order Out for Oxford Elementary. So we have a restaurant that is willing to donate a percentage of their sales that night to our PTO. We do spirit wear. What else do we do? We have a school store event that runs throughout the year where people can go online and either donate to classrooms or there's certain items they can buy and a percentage comes back to the PTO. We do Square One Art. Kids all, create a piece of artwork and it can be put on anything from mugs to bags, t-shirts. And we have a couple of new events this year that we're really excited about. We're doing a fun run in February. And then in January, we're doing a fashion show, parents' night out. We're partnering with a local boutique. There's going to be raffles, silent auction, DJ. So hopefully it'll be a nice night out for parents and to raise some money for the PTO. And then we also, at the end of the year, provide the funds for field trips. We cover the admission and the buses. We specify a certain amount for each class and cover whatever falls under that, kind of that limit. Did I cover it?
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's very busy. Everything we do is in a spirit and collaboration with obviously our Chafee families, our teachers, our staff, and our administration. We work hand in hand on a variety of events. Obviously, we have a teacher liaison that comes to our meetings and gives their input and their thoughts and helps us plan things out. We have team leads that we email with the teachers when we're planning the scheduling, obviously during the day between specials and lunches, and it can get complicated, but we all work together as a team to make these events as successful and as happy and positive experience for our pirates and their families. Obviously, it gets really busy in life and it's crazy, so the few moments of joy that we can give them, we try. It gets crazy, but we really do enjoy working with everybody at Chafee, and we hope in these new events, as we get back to the traditional events in post-COVID world, we can all still continue to work together and support each other. Because obviously during the school day, we have teachers and staff and parent volunteers that take their time off of their jobs to come, which we really appreciate. And at night, vice versa, the parents aren't working, but they're still coming. And we have teachers and staff that'll come help set up, clean up, donate baskets for a family fun night. So it's a really nice environment at Chafee, and we really do enjoy it, and we look forward to this year to kind of continuing on with it.
Oh, great. Any questions or comments from the
Oh,
committee?
kudos. It's a lot of work and, you know, just what you talked about tonight. You do a lot of fundraising and a lot of hard work, and it's greatly appreciated. We hear great things about all of those events that you host, not only through Facebook, but from parents and students, et cetera. So thank you for all your time.
Fantastic memories are made because of you folks. And I have kids that, you know, reaped all this awesomeness from your predecessors, and then you guys just continue to perpetuate and expand the opportunities. It's just amazing. So, yeah, I don't know how you guys do it. It's amazing. We just go, go, go.
Thank you.
Is there anything that you have had discussions within your group that we could do at our level, or is it more just you have it going pretty well, there's nothing really that you need?
I mean, luckily it's been going good so far, but obviously with the newer events that we're having, like the fashion fundraiser, parents night out, a little more adults, to have it welcome to anybody to come and support and get to know people, because obviously during the day everyone has their jobs and doing their stuff, so you don't get to see a lot of faces of the school committee and things like that. Maybe any opportunity to that, so to get the families and stuff to know, get to know you a little more, and ourselves get to know yourself a little more.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. I don't know how, if those things could just get forwarded to us, but also, I think we suggested Genevieve a couple meetings ago to utilize Kaylee, who's behind the scenes, but she can advertise it on the channel,
194.
yeah, channel 494.
that'd be great.
And just with the running ads or whatnot, so anything you need to promote, maybe just reach out to Rob, who could maybe reach out to Helen and get that posted for you.
That'd be great, thank you.
Well, thank you very much, both of you, for coming out.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, Clara Barton, I'm not sure who's here, maybe
Living that pirate.
Maria and Amy and Melissa, maybe?
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
I'm Maria Harvey. I'm the president at Clara Barton. And I've got with me
Melissa Zwang, the co-vice president at Clara Barton.
Amy Peck, the other co-vice president.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks. So we have been off to an amazing school year already. I feel like we've been doing this for like months upon months upon months already. It's been a very busy October. But before we even get into all the things that we've done, I just want to commend and say thank you to Kristen, who has been a huge support for us through sending out communications to parents, to, you know, asking us what we need, to just being at every event and doing whatever it takes, from lugging tables to, to, you know, chalk the walk, to whatever it might be. But she's been amazing.
Dressing up as a unicorn.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, we can't even do any of these things without her support, and she's been very, very helpful. But you know, we've kicked off this year with some great stuff. We started. We were all actually on the board last year as well of the PTO, and one of the things that we felt like we needed to focus on this year is getting parent involvement. At the Chafee school, when kids are starting off in kindergarten, every parent's like all in. Oh, I want to do everything. I want to volunteer for everything. And then we get to Barton and they're like, yeah, been there, done that. Like the PTO has it. We're all good, you know. You guys can handle it. Well, I mean, we've done it, but it's a lot. So, so we've been really trying to focus on getting parents to come to meetings and to volunteer and to attend. And I'm happy to say that we've already had a couple of meetings and have had more parents than we ever had all of last year. So, that's great. And they're volunteering for these activities too. And as you all know, everybody here knows, when parents are involved, it's the best thing for kids, for teachers, for the whole system, you know, as a whole. So what we've already done are quite a few fundraisers. We've done some events. We kicked off the year with the Chalk the Walk, and we found out some amazing artists that we've had. We decorated the school, welcomed all the kids, and that was awesome. We had our open house at Clara Barton, where again we had a PTO table and introduced ourselves and welcomed parents and children and walked them through. We have done our Spirit Wear fundraiser, where we've sold, we teamed up with a local vendor who did some sweatshirts and hats and blankets and all sorts of stuff.
With the pirate.
With the pirate and the O, we're easily migrating, but we're keeping that pirate there too. We have completed our first Scholastic Book Fair, which raises so much money and in Scholastic dollars, which we have used to give back to the school. So we have purchased books for, I know Chafee already talked about, we do a bingo for books as well. So every child gets a book from us. And then we've also fulfilled the teachers with their wish lists and filled the library with some even Spanish language books, because we've seen an increase in that as well. So we've done some great stuff with that. We completed our first official indoor Halloween bash, which is our former trunk or treat, and that was amazing. I believe we had over, 700 families come through. We had a lot of kids.
Wow.
A lot of
Families, yeah. People.
People.
Yeah.
I was
Okay. We had
700
25 decorated tables, or what used to be trunks. 25 people volunteered, and with that volunteer, they brought in over 500 pieces of candy. In addition to that, both Chafee and Barton accepted candy donations from families. We had a truckload. There's no more candy, let's just say that. There's no more candy.
There are a lot of rotting teeth in
No,
Oxford.
yes, yeah. We just had our parent-teacher conferences where we hosted the teachers in a dinner, because they don't get to eat during those things. So we were able to, set up a nice little hot meal for them to eat in between. We're in the midst of putting together our holiday shop, where kids can buy gifts for loved ones and friends and family. We are participating in, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we started the Be the Light, which what we do is we ask families to provide their address if they're going to decorate their house. And we put together like a map. So if you want to drive through Oxford and kind of look at the decorated homes, so we're still doing that. We are going to be participating this year for the first time in the Town Light Parade float. So we're going to team up with Chafee, and we're going to put together a float. We'll see how this goes. We also are in the current planning of one of our biggest fundraisers, our former Jogathon, and we are changing that to a name that's not determined yet, but it's a triathlon. Yeah. So we're going to incorporate some reading into that, jogging, and some mindfulness. So we can kind of, allow for that.
the running, so we're accessing all different.
Some fundraisers that are coming up is our Square One Art, which we do every year, and one of our biggest fundraisers also is the Luck of the Irish, which is a raffle to win some money or scratch tickets. And then last year we hosted our first ever adults night, casino night, and we are repeating that again this year as well. That is another fun adult night out where a company comes in and sets up for fake money, casino tables, and they teach you how to play, but it's all for fake money, and then we raffle off prizes at the end.
And it's so much fun, and you should come.
You should all come.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I had no clue. But they teach you at the table how to do it all.
It is a lot of fun. What am I missing? We also have coming up our Teacher Appreciation Week. We have field trips that are currently being planned, which we supply the funding for each child to attend. in both the 3rd and the 4th grade, and we have some in-house field trips and some outing field trips as well for 3rd and 4th and for preschool as well. Yep. And then, of course, our big field day at the end of the year, and the 4th grade step up and ceremony as well. So,
Wow.
I don't know if I said enough. Yeah,
Questions or
what else,
comments? Yes,
ladies?
Mrs.
What
Forbes.
else have I missed? Yes.
Are you finished? I don't want
I
to
don't know.
interrupt.
Are we finished?
We're good.
Okay.
We could talk about this for hours.
I know, right? So, thank you a million times. Where can I see the map of the lights in town? Where would we find that? That will be, because I don't have a Clara Barton family, student,
okay.
I mean.
Okay.
So is that something that we could get the information?
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll make sure
for
it's shared.
sure.
It's
Yeah.
not together yet, because we.
That's okay. No,
it's
no,
too
I'm
early
just
for
saying.
Well, some of you might have Christmas lights. Or
Too
holiday
early.
lights up, but a little early yet.
I just want to say kudos on getting into the parade, because we've done a lot of talk about community and trying to get the schools to be more a part of the community and the community more a part of the schools, whether or not they have students. So being in that parade, I think is going to be awesome, and you make us look really good, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
And also, I just wanted to say to both of the, not the PTOs, never mind, sorry. That's it for me. Nope, pause, rewind, sorry.
Just quickly speaking of what you just said in the community involvement, one thing we did forget is that we switched up our spirit days at
Thank
Barton.
you. That was on my
And
list, yes.
before it used to be like send in $1 or whatever, maybe get like $9, $7, whatever. So we decided to completely scratch that, and instead we're asking for acts of kindness for each spirit day. And we specifically say what they are, and they kind of go along with, but there's donating food, like you guys are doing at the high school, middle school for the Thanksgiving, so we can give to the food shelf toys in December. So each one is going along with something for the community with a new spin.
Yes.
We did forget.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Excellent, great job, thank you.
Anything else? Well, thank you so much. That was really great to hear, and I know when you were saying, Maria, it's hard to get people the older you get. I was watching Shelley Lambert in the back. The
Right?
high school.
Because my high
So all I
school
was
friend-
gonna say is, we're just gonna refer to the 11, 14, 22 video that said that. Cause you're gonna have to take over up here when your children get up here.
It just keeps happening. You're like, next
Right.
year I'm done, and then you're
Yeah.
like, no, I'm not.
They need me.
Great
Yep.
to hear that your numbers have come up this year, and
That's
and
awesome.
keep up the great
Hopefully it
work. And if,
stays, yes.
as we said to Chafee, if there's anything we can do, you know, Christina can send stuff, they can advertise it on the TVs for you,
That's good to know, yes.
on the TV channel, so, yeah.
I'd just like to add that Mr. Lucas is so visible at our events too, which I think adds to the parents and being able to say, well, our superintendent is here, our principal is here, to show that you're involved, because it's a choice to be there, so,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Now, the middle school is not here, right, Helen? Correct. All right, so let's just call up a person that's gonna be very difficult to replace at the end of this year on lots of avenues.
It'll be easy.
No, I don't think so.
So, thank you for having us here to talk about the OHS Booster Club. I am Shelley Lambert, the president, and we have
Tara Evers, Vice President.
3 of our other board members couldn't be here, but we have general member Christy and Miss September. And we have a good group of hardworking volunteers, a fabulous group of hardworking volunteers. The high school booster club is a little bit different from most other booster clubs in that we are not just supportive of athletics. We support all student activities, groups, and teams. So in the past, when there was a robotics team, we supported the robotics team with funds for competitions. We have supported the C-UP program with Mr. Pietro for several years, providing shirts to the students who go out in the community and do work. We, this year, have done the boys and girls soccer teams with team building activities. Oftentimes, we're funding things that are just outside the regular budget for a team, so team building activities are important, and so that's what they have asked for this year. What else have we?
Best Buddies.
Best Buddies. We will, when they have their rescheduled basketball game, sell concessions and our 50-50 raffle for Best Buddies. We've done that for as long as I've been in the high school, which is a very long time. And all of the proceeds go to Best Buddies, not just profit. All of our proceeds go to the Best Buddies program. Annually, we give 4 scholarships to graduating seniors, 2 service awards to graduating seniors. Applications for those will be out in February, due in April. We make our decisions in May to present at awards night in June. We also host the All Sports Banquet each May. We provide the Swickle All-Star shirts for the Swickle All-Stars on our teams, plaques to graduating student athletes. Let's see. We have helped send chorus and band students to the Mass Central District Conference? Yeah, it's a competition. It's a competition. Baseball, softball, volleyball, student council, the theater program, field hockey, we've supported them all. And the way they go about asking for support is to fill out a request form that Mr. May has. There are also some in the office, because anything that they're asking us for needs to first be approved by either the athletic department or administration. We won't approve something that's not been properly approved by the school. We envy you and your little people. We miss doing all the fun things. Not that what we do isn't fun, but the fun we're having is with one another instead of with little people.
Little collaboration. We'll come help you come play with our little
We do have some wonderful student volunteers who come in and help us with concessions, because for the high school booster club, most of our fundraising is through selling concessions at football games, at basketball games, because there is every group in the high school trying to also fundraise for what they do. So we try never to step on toes. We
don't want to interfere
consult
with their
with
classes
others.
and all those things that, one, are fundamentally hard to get for those classes to attain those funds. We don't want to step on that. So we've tried to create some different avenues and ways to pursue that.
Right, that are individual to us. What we have coming up will be basketball concessions. In February, leading up to February, we will be selling calendar raffles. And each day through February, we will pull a name or a raffle ticket, and that person will win that day's prize. We've been doing that for probably 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this might be the
And that
fifth.
really came to be during COVID. We were fortunate enough to reach out to local businesses in our community and ask for donations, because we couldn't have concessions, we couldn't have sports, we had no means to raise any funds to support these things, even in a COVID atmosphere.
Because we
So-
did still give our scholarships
Right,
and our
we still
service
wanted to
awards.
make sure that the students of each graduating class knew that they were appreciated through everything that they endured. So thankfully Shirley came up with a beautiful letter and sent them out to every business we could think of, like opening up the yellow pages, and we got such a tremendous response. It was really, really overwhelming, and a lot of those people are local businesses that have had students that have come through the school system. So it was very humbling and honoring to see how much they still care and want to be a part of this community. And everything that we do personally is just volunteer, but we get a lot of great satisfaction out of it, watching these students from Chafee up to this current day.
Yep. I
And we
was
just,
on every PTO.
Yeah, likewise.
We're lifers.
We are,
We're
and we're
lifers.
it.
Because it's all for the kids.
But most importantly,
Did you hear that,
every
ladies?
aspect of-
Lifers.
This is your future.
Everybody in the back of the room.
Take a look.
We just need
Lifers.
more parent volunteers. We're not asking everyone to volunteer for everything all the time, but if every family or one person in each family within the school community could give their school and their student an hour a
1
year.
hour.
1 hour. Nothing too extreme. Whether it be that pumpkin hunt or filling out some laminating stuff for a teacher in a classroom to helping us wrap some burgers and dogs, or do something as simple as that. That would be tremendous, and it would help every organization that's trying to help our student body succeed immensely.
So how do you advertise that to people so that they can do that? Is there a way that you guys do that?
We send out a sign up for everything we do, an online sign up, and we do that on Facebook.
everything's noted on the electronic backpack, this, that, the other, but to get it out there, I think it should be on every marquee of every school and possibly the town, because this town is small. If you don't come through the center of Charlton and Route 12, you're not gonna see it. If you don't look at your kid's electronic backpack, you're not gonna know it's there. But if we're able to advertise on these beautiful new marquees that everyone has around, maybe it'll, you know, have that blip to be there.
And I do know that when I, at the beginning of every year, the high school secretary will send out the, you know, the all-school email asking for parents to volunteer for the Booster Club. And we get a decent turnout at the first few meetings. And then when we start changing, you know, because then football season hits and it's all about wrapping burgers and selling popcorn. And then we'll change into basketball and we'll see a few more different faces come passing through. So that's fabulous. Every single person that can volunteer, even just one event,
Right,
is,
like I said,
is
not
more than
a
we could.
huge amount of time.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's before a game, you can help us out half hour, an hour. Anything that you can give would be so appreciated across the board.
Right.
For anything.
And it would be great for people to start coming in now, because then in June, our board is gonna have a big turnover.
Yes. As most of
yes.
you folks know, Shelley has been the key of everything for the Oxford Booster Club. She is at her
Not
third and final
forever.
graduate,
Only for a few years, but.
and I don't know if she's gonna continue on. I fortunately am also at the end of my tenure. I have a graduating senior. We have multiple board members and volunteers that don't even have high school students in our high school.
Right.
That give their time, their husbands, wives, sons, etc. So at the end of this year, our board will have 2 remaining members if they want to stay in the roles they currently have. So we need and beg and applaud every family to come.
Everybody, please.
Do we have any
come on.
questions or comments?
I do.
Mr. Burke?
I think for all our groups tonight, I think similar to what I said to Genevieve, I think people look at your groups and think, you know, you're doing all this for the students, which absolutely, number one, you're doing this all for the students. But I heard tonight your support for the community, your support for our teachers, your support for our families. It goes way beyond what everybody kind of envisions as the Parents Club and what they do. So I want to thank you all for that, and I hope we're bringing some awareness and getting some folks to say, yeah, I can give an hour. You know, why not?
Just one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
not a
thank you.
lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Listen, I just have to say you all do an amazing job.
Thank you.
So do you,
And
September, thank you.
Just so you know, we've been told we have the best burgers of any football anywhere. Literally, a guy who said he comes here just to eat the burgers. Swear to you guys. So, good job.
Stuff.
Yep,
Thank you.
yep.
Thank you.
But you do a lot of hard
The other
work.
thing I did want to mention is, you know, when you think about the high school, right, we're thinking about young adults. And, you know, I know there's the honor society students who have service hours, but there's also other high schools around that do require, in order to graduate, kids do community service hours. So I don't know, maybe it's a conversation you might start with.
We actually
We have
did,
that, Dave.
Mr. Connecchioli,
You
we
do it?
had a
We do.
conversation.
I'm not sure it's enforced, but we do have it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it is
We had a conversation recently at one of our meetings that asking, going forward, we would like every sport group to give a little bit of their time throughout the school year, not during their sports session, because that would interfere with their practice and games. But say if you play field hockey in the fall, can you help out with baseball or softball in the spring if you don't play a spring sport? Or vice versa, or this and that, so that each sport is supporting another sport and everything is covered. Whether it be someone at the gates to get into the high school parking lot to collect tickets and fees, someone to get to and from the concessions, help, you know, like you said, student council, getting their hours, National Honor Society, community service. Again, that's what this whole program is about. Getting the community involvement to support our student body.
And for any students who might be paying attention, our service awards are for students who have provided service for the Booster Club. We keep a notebook. Students sign in, they say, you know, if they're there supporting a team, or if they're from the NHS and that's why they're putting in hours, we keep track of that, and that's taken into consideration in the service
And
award.
we're trying to do the
at the end of the
technology
year.
thing and get a QR code for that as well, so they all have their phones, there's no, oh, I forgot to jot it down.
Yeah.
So we're trying to really keep in touch and create this universal collection and collaboration.
Right, and actually, it's a interesting thing to see students working in the concession stand, because they are having to put on a customer service face. They are having to make change with actual real money. You know, and it's
math
not
in their
something that the
head.
kids might see all the time, so they actually have to do these tasks, and it's not just helping us, it's helping them progress as young adults, and that's important.
Well, we want to thank all the PTO members who came out tonight. I'm a principal of a school in another district in the middle school, and it's a struggle. We have probably 4 parents, and it's hard. So I have the utmost respect for people who come forward and help. And to your point, even if you can't make every meeting, an hour,
That's it.
anything, it's so important to have that full circle connection of parents, community, students, and school. We just need it. So thank you all very, very much for coming out.
Thank you.
Certainly
Very welcome.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless you all.
Clara Barton School Fall Building Update. Mrs. Hutchinson, if you could come on up.
All right, hello.
Hi.
Hi.
So I have 7 pages of fun stuff that we've been doing the last few months. So I'll just kind of like skim through it since it's a lot. Our reading intervention right now, well, so far we've had about 52 3rd and 4th grade students that have been provided some targeted instruction in reading. And they also have been working with our data meetings that we've been able to start and do monthly. So Tara, myself, our intervention team, including our math interventionists, we've been meeting with our teachers as a grade level to really like deep dive into some part of curriculum. Like September we did ELA, October we did our math, and both of these were like our MCAS scores. This month we're going to be doing SEL and writing. Tara's coming in this week to model a lesson in every single classroom on writing, because it's kind of our weakness. We've kind of noticed that over the years with MCAS, so we're going to be doing that and then really getting to the data on that. We do have another interventionist starting this week on Thursday, so we'll be excited to have her on board. She'll be helping out mainly with math, but she'll also be doing a couple of ELA blocks. So the next part was our grade 3 art. Well, art in general, Mrs. Tillotson now. She has this great bulletin board right outside the art room that has like what they're doing in 3rd grade, what they're doing in 4th grade. So the kids can kind of be inspired and kind of keep thinking about their projects, since it takes several classes usually. Next we have mindfulness. She started using, so Ms. Casillo started using Mind Up, I believe last year in mindfulness class. It really talks about parts of the brain and how like it affects your regulation. She has, it also focuses on mindful awareness and moving into mindfulness of the senses. And she also does sensory bottles with all our 4th graders. That's a fun project they love doing. And then Ms. Casillo and Mrs. Bennett have been a huge help with supporting for our grade level meetings. Sometimes I'm there too, and the 3 or 4, and sometimes we'll have another person. We'll do a lot of like Breathe for Change activities, as well as one time we focused on respect. This month we'll be focusing on responsibility. And with 100+ kids, it's interesting. But Mrs. Bennett and Ms. Casillo are really good with the crowd control of 100 kids at once, to keep everybody, like how to have them all line in and like line up around the lines around the whole gym, and getting 100 kids to go and do yoga flow and that kind of thing. It's very interesting, but they are a great team. All of my specialists also work on the 365Z Kindness Initiative. In October, we do the World Smile Day and we do the food collection. And 3rd and 4th grade also wrote cards for veterans for November. I forget what the next round of stuff is, but they definitely keep things interesting and following along that. We really like to focus on kindness throughout the school, from Chafee through Barton. And then we kind of support the middle school, sending them cards when they send that over to the veterans. Phys Ed, they just did soccer, and they also incorporate SEL and mindfulness in their lessons as well. Like when the kids come in, they do warm-ups, like running around the gym, doing laps, or they'll do running and then climb along the rock wall to warm up, and then they branch out into with their 2 teachers, and they'll do kind of an SEL check-in with the kids as a whole, and then they'll kind of start focusing on like, okay, these are the skills that we're going to do in the phys ed part of our day. And they will include things like some yoga moves as well, like the community stability that's pictured in there. It's a good time. The library, they were doing their book character pumpkin decorating contest where they have a pumpkin and they make it one of their characters. There's a lot of really creative ideas that they put up there. And all kids kind of get a prize. Anybody who participated gets recognized. They are working on touch typing with the computer part. And then we're on to preschool. They've been killing it over there. October, they were doing community helpers, fire safety, and Halloween things. Now, for November, it's all about fall, friendship, and Thanksgiving. In October, they also do a pumpkin painting day with families. They get to come in and paint with their students. And I think there was one student who didn't have a family member that could join him, so we kind of corralled one of the 4th grade students to be his buddy and get to participate. That was a good time. In December, they'll be doing a family gingerbread house activity. One of our pictures includes Tomo, one of our therapy dogs. So so we have Bambi. Bambi's still our original. She comes on Friday, like every other Friday after she visits the high school. But Tomo is a new friend who comes on Wednesdays. Tomo is funded through, I think, the SPED department. He's trained with animal-assisted therapy services, and it's more like he's trained to work with like even like very severe like special needs people, like students and stuff. So he is a good time. You get to sign up. It's a lot more structured too when Tomo comes to visit. His owner Kim will bring him in. Sometimes they'll read a book. Sometimes it might be like they're looking for donations of dog brushes, and the kids can just brush the dog and stuff and have a good time. So Tomo's really sweet. Tomo's visited preschool a couple of times, and they're enjoying that. And then we also have our preschool team. They won the Halloween contest this year. That was a big one. It was a really, yeah.
We don't recognize you.
It was a really close call. 3rd grade did an amazing job with their Snow White and 7 Dwarfs, but the dedication to the Candyland like costumes, there was some really creative stuff. So we had to. They won that by a hair. It was a good one. Yes. So grade 3, we had like an in-service field trip with the Plymouth Pawtuxet Museum. This gentleman came in last year, and he did a really good job bringing in things. He is a Native American as well, so he has more backgrounds, and he talks about the Wampanoags, which is what 3rd grade students learn in 3rd grade. He brings in different furs and other like pelts and things like that, and really the students love that. So they did that, I think, early October, and right now it is Bottle Buddy time for 3rd grade. This is their big first research project where they pick a biography and they do a timeline, they do a write-up, they have a poster, and they have their Bottle Buddy, and those are all in our hallways right now for a while. It's a good time. We got a bunch. Last year I bought like 28 new people because we kind of had the same people every year, so we had 28 new biographies, and we got a bit more variety this year, which was nice. Yeah. And then grade 4, they wrapped up Because of Winn-Dixie. That's their first novel that they do every year. And then Miss Frudenthal, she always did a pet board in her classroom, but this year she opened it up to the whole school. So everyone's kind of been posting their pets. One of the pets is great. Miss Favada's class adopted a cow, like a baby cow. So the baby cow, I think its name is September Baby, is on the board as well. That was good. That's cute. For science, they were studying rocks, and the students would bring in different types of rocks that they had, or that they just found, and then they would sort them out and display them in their classrooms. What else? Oh, and then our family events. So the PTO discussed a lot of them. We had a great turnout for our Halloween bash. Just a picture of all that candy that we had, and it was all gone. We had like little. My husband was kind of in charge of passing candy out that night, and yeah, he was like, "We're running late." He was freaking out. It was funny. He was panicking about the lack of candy. We had some inflatables, which really made it a lot more entertaining this year for that night, and then also on Halloween morning when we went up to the school, it was all decorated, and the students were loving it when they came off the bus. This Sunday, we have our 5K for our Girls on the Run and Let Me Run groups. That will be this Sunday at Assumption College. The PTO is collecting donations of wrapping items, and our big wrapping night is this Wednesday. So, oh yeah, it's gonna be good times. Yes. And then the holiday shop is happening the week of December 12th. Our concert will be the week of the December 19th. It's likely going to be the 20th, but it's not like definitive yet. So we will be one day, and then Chafee will be the next day, because all of it in one go is a little too much for poor Mr. Fontaine, so we need to break it up. So he'll do 2 shows at Chafee, at Barton, and then 2 shows at Chafee. And that's it. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Any
it's a lot.
questions?
It's amazing.
Yeah, we've been busy.
Wonderful, thanks.
Anything from anybody? Yes?
I just wanted to comment on one of the things that you had said that makes me really happy. When you were talking about the reading intervention, the data meetings that are occurring, and then you said, and then we make the necessary changes. So I just want to point that out, that you are reflective, you're looking at your data, and you're making those necessary changes, because that's what we need.
Yeah,
See
even
our
4th
weakness,
grade pointed
make-
out, like, after we discussed, like, our math data for MCAS, they were like, oh, even just changing, like, vocab instead of fact filmies, it's relationships between numbers and stuff like that, because that's how they ask it in MCAS, so that's what we have to start using in the
Right.
classroom and things like that.
And
So
that's great.
It's really good and reflective. The teachers are loving it.
That's good to hear,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, she just jumped all over what I wanted to
I'm
say.
sorry,
Does that all the
Yeah.
time, folks.
So, well, first of all, just based on your presentation, it just sounds like the building has such a really positive vibe, really great sense of belonging. I know somebody, myself, worked there
Yeah.
several years ago, and it just sounds like the culture has changed tremendously, so kudos for that. And September just brought it up, that jumped out. I don't know if it's just my school committee hat, my principal hat, but I love how you are your school is reflecting on data. After examining MCAS results from last year, we found opportunities to modify specific language used in the classroom. Students have shown great success and place value, and it goes on. That's just
Yeah.
kudos to you under your leadership for doing that, and the staff.
Yeah.
'Cause there's a great staff over there
There is.
who's starving for consistency, and great job. I'm really, really impressed with that, so thank you. No, it's all right. I'm glad you picked up on it.
Good.
You say you never have an educational experience,
you're
but
getting
that was an incredible insight right there. So great job to you too, September. Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right.
Appreciate you coming on up.
Thanks, Kristen.
And feel free, I know a lot of you may have stayed, feel free to leave. Your parents, you have kids, you gotta go home, trust me.
We won't be offended.
Please
You will not be offended. Leave whenever you
You
need.
exit. Right.
Leave
See
whenever
you on
you need to
Wednesday, we're
leave.
wrapping.
All right, hockey co-op with Hopedale, Kevin May, athletic director, come on up.
Good evening, thank you for having me.
Hi.
Hi, Kevin.
You know, before I begin, I did want to thank Shelley and the Booster Club for their amazing support. You know, one of the big things at the end of the year is that all sports banquet that under Shelley's leadership is really transformed. It's become a very large event with close to 300 student athletes and family members there every year. And they provide not only those T-shirts that Shelley mentioned and the plaques for the graduating seniors summarizing what varsity letters they've earned, but they also provide a great meal that's catered. So, you know, thank you again for all that you do for us and our athletes. I'm here this evening to propose that we enter into a ice hockey co-op with Hopedale Junior Senior High School. We would be the 4th school within the co-op. Right now it is made up of Douglas, Milford, and Hopedale. Speaking with their athletic director, Hopedale and Milford are pretty evenly split, probably 8 to 10. And there's 1 or 2 coming from Douglas, and we hope to add approximately the same, anywhere from 1 to 4 student athletes to be able to participate this year, and hopefully we can grow it. You know, ice hockey is something that people have been asking for, and I've spent, you know, years trying to find someone that will take us, and Hopedale's in need of someone else, so I jumped on it. Some specifics, according to their athletic director, most games and practices will occur after 5 p.m., so there really isn't an issue of trying to get them to locations right after school. You know, parents would provide their transportation or the student athlete to get there. She believes that the only thing that happens before 5 o'clock is a 3:30 game on Martin Luther King Day, which is a holiday anyways. It is a $900 student fee for that, which seems to be consistent with a lot of hockey programs. Hopedale will honor our free and reduced lunch policy, which is any student athlete that qualifies for free and reduced lunch will have their fee waived. So that was very generous of them to do that as well. They practice and play their home match games over at the Blackstone Valley Iceplex in Hopedale, and obviously away games will be wherever the opponent's home ice is located.
I know there was like,
questions.
you were
So,
paused and then I heard a bunch of us go.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so I mean, if you have any questions, I'll be
Yeah, I think
entertaining.
there's
I know I do
think
put a lot of
there's
this
I think
is in the
there's a
memo
few-
already.
Yeah, I think there's a few questions. Mr. Burke first?
Thanks. Kevin, I guess the first question is, the way this is gonna work is, I'm assuming there's gonna be tryouts, there's gonna be cuts, kids may or may not make this team, or?
Well, my assumption is, once you have a co-op, it's because there's a need.
Right.
So they're gonna take pretty much everybody. I think if you can skate, you'll be okay.
What
Because
is-
if they have the numbers to cut, usually MIAA would not allow that for a co-op.
To co-op, okay. What is our current fee per sport for our students here?
For our students, for every other sport, is $100 for their first sport, $50 for a second, and it's waived for the third. But schools with user fees, usually the hockey fee is not in line with that. It's usually much higher than what they pay for other sports.
And
So that's typical for other schools, that their hockey fee is higher, but we
Yes.
don't have to be like other schools. So, just curious if we could, and I don't have the answer off the top of my head, it just hit me as I was looking at that, but if there's a way for us to look, I'm assuming we're talking a handful of kids that are gonna go play hockey. Is there a way we can figure out how to keep that fee at $100 for them? And
So, I mean, I know the father I spoke to last week, that was very excited that, Hopedale accepted us. When I
Sure.
told him the user fee, he actually was excited that it was low as it was.
Sure.
So, I mean, I think some hockey parents are used to paying over $1,000 to participate, because I think part of that is paying for the ice time and other things that go along with the hockey program.
And I totally understand that, and I think that's for traditional hockey families, but I can tell you, my daughter's not a born and bred volleyball player, but she started playing volleyball when she got to high school, and she loves it. So
Right, yes.
I'm wondering if there's a kid who might find that they love hockey, but can't pay $900 to go play hockey, so. And I understand the free and reduced, that fee would be waived, but just wondering if we're talking 6, 7 kids, if there's a way that we could look into whether or not we can help with that fee. Just something to talk for us to discuss.
Mrs. Forbes?
I was just gonna say, I think it's great, another opportunity for the athletes, and everything that we can add to our roster of things to appeal to more and more students, I'm all in. Certainly $900 is a lot, but I have to say kudos to Hopkinton for accepting the free and reduced, because they don't have to do that. And also, it's such an expensive sport that,
Yeah.
as Kevin said, hockey families are like, phew, only 900. I have friends whose kids play hockey, and the ice time fees are outrageous. So, I think it's a great thing that we're offering, and I hate that students would be kept out for financial reasons. I would love to find a way to pay or assist with, but, again, I like the opportunity.
And Hopedale has offered, I know some of their families that can't come up with the $900 up front, they do offer a payment plan, a couple $100 a month. If this committee is looking for a way that possibly even Oxford could help out and pay for them, then Mr. Lucas and I could have a conversation, see what kind of funds are available to help offset that for some of our student athletes.
Yeah, that would be my view. I mean, I understand that hockey is typically expensive, but even as a baseball parent, I can have my kid play for $100 in town, or I can pay $3,000 and have him go play for Mizuno or something, right? So I think as a public school, if we're looking at offering a sport, I'd like to see if we could figure out a way to offer it at the regular price that everybody else is paying for a sport, so. But like I said, I don't have the answer right now, off the top of my head, just something I think we should look at.
Anything else? Yes, Mr. Cook?
Do you have students interested already that want to?
Yes, I've already talked to a couple students, couple parents, and one, when I told them the registration was open, has already signed up. So.
How do they get to away games? Do they meet somewhere and they all take them? Or?
That was my understanding,
Okay.
that they would meet in Hopedale, and then they would be bused to the opponent's site. We had depending on, busing, as many districts have had issues with athletics this year and busing, so.
Anything else? Two things. Want to thank you. I know I was pushing this for a
Right,
long
yes,
time,
yeah.
and I really appreciate you bringing it forward. I agree with the committee members. It's a great opportunity for kids, but I also agree with Mr. Burke. I would love for us to figure out a way to make that cost a little bit more doable for families or fair, equitable, right? We talk about equity. And I get ice time is ice time, but I also think we should do our best to try to help some families who may not be able to.
Absolutely.
That's a big chunk of money, so if we could look into that and maybe
Yeah.
get back to us,
Yes.
we'd appreciate
Mr.
that.
May
but-
and I can have a conversation.
But we
with-
do need a
see what other
motion.
schools are doing.
Yeah, that'd be
too.
great.
Yes.
We do need a motion and a vote to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the co-op.
Second?
We have a second. Is there any more discussion? Call for the vote. Ms. Cook? Mrs. Forbes?
Yes.
Mrs. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, 5 yes. Thank you very much, Mr. May.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right, thank you.
MCAS data presentation. Sarah Trainer, Curriculum Director.
Right, good evening, everybody. So tonight we were just going to take a look at our 2022 MCAS results, just to get an idea of how our students did last year. We'll also take a little bit of time to look at our beginning of the year data, which I know Ms. Hutchinson has already kind of talked about, how we're using that data as well. So we'll take a quick look through that space. So first of all, I did want to address the idea that the state of Massachusetts uses a program or an outline called MTSS, which is just really a system that says there are 3 tiers of instruction, 3 tiers of behavior management, 3 tiers of SEL management, which says that tier 1 is about 80%, which means that if I teach my classroom, 80% of the students right off the bat should be getting what I'm saying. For students that don't, then there's tier 2 opportunities where then kids can get additional support in that area. And then a tier 3 student would be someone who, even after small group support, would need additional support. But the most important aspect of this is the 80% mark. So that mark says that if a teacher is hitting 80% or higher every day with exit tickets or assessments that they're giving to their students, that really we are meeting the requirements that are expected. Now, of course, I would like to be higher than that, but that's kind of our baseline of like, okay, below that, we definitely don't want to be. And 80 is like our minimum line where we would say, okay, all of our students are the students are learning at grade level, is really that expectation. So that's kind of the number we want to look at, that 80 would be the lowest really acceptable space that we would want to see our students at. So when we take a look at the MCAS results starting in grade 3, we do see that 81% of our students are passing ELA and 75% passing math. So again, we kind of start off the bat thinking about we really need to obviously increase these numbers significantly, but also the idea is that we are, as most communities, battling back from COVID, but we should be seeing greater gains than we are at this point. Again, this is our 3rd year in our math program, and we were just really hoping to see a marked improvement with the students that are in classroom learning. So again, not overly disappointing, but we would like, again, that minimum threshold at 80, we'd like to be higher than that space. In terms of 4th grade, we are at 82% of our students are passing MCAS and ELA, 87% passing in math. That, again, now we're getting up to where it is that we would like to see, closer to that 90 percentile mark where our students are passing.
Do you mind just pausing? 'Cause
Yes,
you
of
know
course.
This is something that I continue to bring up.
Yep.
So I just want people to understand at home so they're not confused,
Mhm.
that you're saying, so for grade 4,
Yes.
you're saying that 82% passed the MCAS.
Correct.
So people at home are saying, well, you're saying 80% in MTSS,
Mhm.
then you should be fine.
Mhm.
But the reality is, only 33% are meeting expectations, or higher.
36.
Well, I'm talking grade 4 ELA.
Yeah.
So just so people know at home that the 82% is including partially meeting expectations.
Yep.
So if you take grade 4 ELA, there's 2% exceeding, there's 31% meeting. So that's 33% of our kids are where they should be. The 49 gets added in because it's partially meeting, because the state now tells us that partially meeting is passing, but partially meeting is not in that 80% of tier 1 instruction that we're looking for. So I just want to make sure people are aware of that. So really, we have 67% of our kids in grade 4 are below grade level expectations. That's really the reality. So when we say 82%, 87%, 84%, 83%, I just want people to be clear that they're passing based on partially meeting being included. And for me, as a principal, as a parent, as a school committee member, partially meeting is not where we need to be. So I just want to make that clear. All right, thank you.
Absolutely, sure. In the world of fifth grade, same thing. From partially meeting through meeting and exceeding, we have 84% of our students passing in ELA, 83% passing in math, and 83 passing in science as well. So again,
All right, and just again, to
Yep.
push back,
Yep.
34% are meeting expectations are higher in ELA, 25% in math,
Yep.
and 34% in science are meeting or higher, just so those numbers are out there.
yeah, no, I definitely understand what it is that you're saying, but the state has always included needs improvement and partially meeting as passing, and our high school students do graduate even if they hit partially
Right, but
meeting.
we're talking fourth and fifth grade teachers, until the compliment that we gave Mrs. Hutchinson is they're digging, like, we can look at data or interpret it however we want, right? So we can say the state's saying it's passing. Partially meeting expectations, for me, is not where it needs to be. And I really just want the numbers to be reflective of what the reality is. The reality is 78% of the kids are not at grade level. 84% of the kids are not at grade level. I mean, that's just the reality.
Okay, I completely, I do understand. In terms of sixth grade, if we look at it with just kids that meet expectations or exceed, we're at 31%, and the same thing with math, we're at 36%. So if we look at it through that standpoint, however, if we look at it the other way through the state's lens,
That's fine.
84% of students are passing ELA and 95% are passing in math. So it's just, again, if we took this as this was sophomore year, then that would be 95% of kids are passing, like would be able to graduate is really what that kind of, that
Right,
space
but
looks like.
our job is to create a K-12 student that's ready for college and career and beyond. And partially meeting, for me, is not advocating in what's in the best interest of our kids. And it starts, again, K-12. I mean, this is something we've been talking about for years in this district. What do we want that graduate to look like out on the field? For me, we want a graduate that's not partially meeting. We want a graduate that's meeting and striving to go higher so that they're prepared for college and career.
Chair, if I could just-
Yes, go ahead, Mr.
I think we do all want the same thing. We all want meeting expectations as minimum for all of our students, for every student in our schools at every grade. I think that's what we're working towards. I think either way, however we label the data, I think the important part of hopefully will come out tonight and came out in our subcommittee meeting with data and accountability is what we're doing with this information and how our folks are working with it. And I think Mrs. Hutchinson alluded to that a little bit with fourth grade, and we're doing that with other grades as well. So hopefully the important thing is we're taking the data and now looking with our staff at it and finding how we can close gaps with our kids.
And I
Inform our teaching.
totally agree with you, but again, when just somebody who's looking at it from, when they hear that 80% is tier one and that's where we need to be, and they're hearing 84%, 95%, 85%, that's
Yep.
just not, to me, being transparent on what this information's saying.
Okay. And Tara, just for clarification, the lighter shaded numbers are last year's scores, correct?
Correct.
Percentages?
Yep,
Okay.
the last year's
Okay.
scores. Yeah, absolutely.
you.
Sure. So then grade 7, again, would then have the expectation that kids that are meeting or exceeding, only 24% of our students are meeting or exceeding in ELA in 7th grade, and 26% are meeting or exceeding in math. So again, if we look at it through that lens, we definitely have a lot of work to do, but that's also where our interventionists and our additional support staff in Tier 2 comes into place. So in our system, anyone who is in yellow or red has the opportunity to get Tier 2, gets additional instruction within these areas. So we do use the data within this space very wisely in terms of who would get extra supports. For 8th grade, we have 37% of our kids meeting or exceeding. For English language arts and math, we have 12% meeting expectations, and in science, we have 31% meeting or exceeding
So
expectations.
could I ask you a question? So you just said that the kids who are in orange and red get extra supports. So when you have 88% of eighth graders who are now at the high school, right? This is last year's data, so they're all freshmen.
Correct.
So how are those kids getting support up here? I guess I don't,
They do not. We do not have a tier 2 program at our high school. K to 8 gets.
so we have 88% of our kids came up here below meeting expectations in math. Okay.
Yep. In terms of our 10th grade, we had, well, I mean, I don't know how to, I'm going to roll it out the way it sounds for me, which is 97% of our students passed MCAS last year. So we only have one student that is retaking this year, and we had 2 students that missed due to absences. So 3 sophomores will be retaking. 2 taking it for the first time and 1 retaking it. In that case, we had teachers specifically working with that particular student, doing one-on-one conferencing, working with that child. It was really awesome. The entire team rallied around him in order to help that kiddo be successful. In math, 89% of our students did pass MCAS. We had 8 students not pass the MCAS test, which is what those numbers kind of look like in that respect. And again, those students were conferenced with their guidance counselors. Their math teachers were supposed to be meeting with them as well to help them get prepared. Math retakes, ELA retakes were last week, math retakes were this week. So this data was done early October, so the students had 5-6 weeks prior to make sure that they were, number one, aware that they need to pass in order to graduate, and 2, what they needed to specifically be working on. So the great thing about the high school MCAS test is that the entire test is released, which is not in other grade levels, and the child's scores and what they answered on each one are also released as well. So you can sit down with the child and kind of conference about each question to say, why did you pick this answer over this one, or go through the test and ask them, which areas do you feel you're weakest in? We can look at each child's data and talk with them and have those good conversations. And a lot of times it's that one-on-one conferencing that can really help, especially in the world of ELA. It's a really important one because we can look at students, because we have different types of tests. We've got the writing pieces, and we've got the multiple choice pieces, and then talking to kids really about, where to kind of put all their eggs in terms of their effort and their motivation, because the test, even though it's not timed, there's still really a certain amount of time in the school day a child needs to complete it, and where we should really be putting our energies and efforts. So that was just the opportunity that we had up here. But I mean, if we looked at it in the other way with meeting expectations, we only had 47% of our students meeting expectations or exceeding, and 37% in math meeting or exceeding. And then in science, it was 24% that were meeting or exceeding expectations. When we look at it through a different lens, we look at student growth. So what you're actually looking at are trends across a year's worth of time in terms of what a teacher maybe produces. But when we look at slide 12, which is really student growth, that is comparing the same cohort of children to the same cohort of children. So if we look at 4th grade, we can see that they have declined in growth. So that grade level themselves has gone down, but that increase went up in math. So even though we may look overall at the scores and think that they're not that great, our children are actually growing. The state as a whole declined by 10 percentage points in all of ELA across the state. 31% of children grades 3 through 8 took a 0 on the writing. So we had a third of the state score a 0 or leave it blank. So we obviously across the state have a huge deficit in the area of writing. Math grew this year by 10%, which now if we look at math and ELA overall across the board, in Massachusetts, 40% of students are passing math and 40% of students are passing ELA. And that does include the needs improvement or the partially meeting category. So when we look at those numbers as a whole, and we view it in that respect, it's a little bit different. You can see that our 5th graders had a little bit of growth in ELA and then grew that significant number again in math. For our sixth grade group, we see the decline of the 10 points, which again isn't unexpected due to the low writing, but then the math increased by 12 percentage points. So just trending along with what the state had said. Our grade 7 students made progress in both areas, and our grade 8 students took a decline, a pretty big hit in both areas. So that is comparing the same students to the same students. So overall, what did the implications show? That, well, what the state had predicted was that in-person learning greatly impacts math scores. That the more in-person math you get, the better shot at passing grade level standards or understanding and maintaining grade level standards you have, which we do see with our students. We also saw that we took a dive in the area of writing along with the rest of the state as well. So our ELA scores have declined. So again, we followed the trend with the state, not that I'm happy with that or making it as any type of excuse, but writing is the biggest area that we will be focusing on this year. It was a focus that I was hoping to be able to use last year. We didn't have it because the push for math was so low and so much lower than the ELA piece was, that now we can justify really pushing forward with more pressure on the writing piece for our teachers. So that is the area that we are working on specifically this year.
Can I just ask you to pause so that we can, I think there's a
Sure.
few questions regarding the MCAS data. Al?
So you're saying we were like tracking with the state?
Yep.
So kind of our growth in mathematics, it's not like necessarily a growth because we did something exceptional, it's just because that's kind of the norm throughout the state. And I wonder, have you dived into each assessment and looked at the standards and looked at each question and said, well, the test looks like it was less rigorous for mathematics overall, and that's why everybody kind of looks like they're performing at a certain level, because it wasn't as challenging as previous years, right? So it's interesting that, like, I wonder, have you drilled down to each standard? Do teachers have reports to their own classrooms for their own student performance, and have they correlated that data? So, for example, you know, all fourth grade teachers can say, wow, this is, you know, we have a strength in this area, but a deficit here. And I think that that works, like, coming, but I wonder if it's
Yes,
here
no, we've
yet.
already done that. So we did that for ELA. We went through each question, and then each teacher got their report that how the percentage for their classroom versus the percentage of the building, so they can kind of see privately if you're on par with your colleagues or if this is an area of weakness for you. And then we looked at the district versus the state to then say, where are our discrepancies, where are we strong or where are we weak? So the teachers could do it individually. Then we did it just as a whole group, as a whole.
Was that all the way through 10th grade?
We did that yes, we did. We went all the way up through, because now that I think of it. The only grade level that I had a very hard time meeting with is grade 8, just due to a lot of absences and issues within that space. So I've met with everyone except for the grade 8 ELA teacher, because they were out on a leave for a medical issue.
So you're aware, Mrs. Griffin, I have requested multiple reports, grades 3 to 10, that will give you that information you're looking for. Superintendent and Tara will get it to me. It was a last minute request, but I'll share that when I get it.
And then the other follow-up question I had, so there's very specific language that, you know, as a parent, we see when we get these reports at home, and it says, you know, for example, I'm just gonna read not meeting expectations. A student who performed at this level did not meet grade level expectations in the subject. The school, in consultation with student, parent / guardian, should determine the coordinated academic assistance and/or additional instruction the student needs to succeed in the subject. So what efforts have we made to reach out to every family, every child that's not meeting expectation, and what is the plan that's available for each child?
So we we purchased a unified insights, so then parents will then have that information, able to access them. And we did not use MCAS scores at the K to 4 level to determine the work that we are doing with them in terms of interventions. We used our iStation testing because that breaks it into subgroups that were better off, and it also correlated better with K1 and 2 because those students also. So if you fell in the area of weak in the areas in K and 1 in phonemic awareness and number sense based on iStation. Then additional supports were put in place, and a letter would go home saying your child is now going to work in a tier 2 group working on number sense, or you're working in phonemic awareness. If you're in grades 2 or 3, number sense stays, because this is a really important aspect. It just increases in the numbers. So number sense for K and 1 is numbers within 1 through 10. And then when we look at grades 2, well, so that's still Chafee. So grade 2, that looks specifically at numbers 1 through 20. And then grades 3 and 4 are numbers up through 100, and then all of the different types of addition and subtraction pieces within those in place value pieces. So that kind of carries through. For ELA, we work at decoding at grades 3 and 4, and then, at grades 2 and 3. And then at grades 4, we do have higher levels of decoding, but it bumps into fluency, and then by the end of the year, it moves into vocabulary. So we start off with the students in the areas of most need, and then work our way up. So like as those kiddos move up, then we're able to hook everybody else kind of throughout the year, if that makes sense. And then it's just a letter that goes home. It's kind of a form letter, and then it just says like Johnny is working in a group on decoding short vowel sounds for the next 3 weeks or whatever it is. And then there's information on how to contact the teacher, but soon that information will be inside of PowerSchool so that parents will be able to see that and then say, oh, I see that now, I can see that information. But in terms of us mailing out a letter to every parent or contacting every parent on MCAS, no, we have not done that.
So not every parent, just the parents in particular that were in that category of, not meeting expectations. And not just K through 4, but like our students 5 through 10.
Yeah.
What type of targeted intervention did those students get?
So they get the same thing based on iStation testing. So the targeted intervention is then based on those pieces. So we are working with a new program. It's called Generation Genius. And so those teachers are now working specifically with math skills where the subtests show that they're weak. So we take the areas of the kids in grades 5 through 8. There was 4, there's now 3 math interventionists, and then each interventionist then has particular groups at each grade level during the wind block time, because we can't miss tier 1 instruction while we're giving tier 2 instruction, which for a parent at home, that just means you can't be pulled out of math class to get additional math support or pulled out of ELA class to get it. You have to get your full regular grade level work and then additional time that working with an additional person, whether it be your math teacher during one block or whether it be a math interventionist, is basically how those things work. So students, again, get this information, that the team gets the information, and then they determine who's first in the most needy list in order to get themselves kind of caught up within this space. At the middle school, we rotated in a 10-week space. So every term, a child would then have access to getting math instruction. We only currently have one ELA person at our middle school. So she primarily works with just 5th and 6th grade teachers. When our other spot, we had interventionists that have since left. So when another interventionist comes in, then we can put someone in at the 7th and 8th grade level. But right now we have 2 open positions that we are hoping to fill.
So kind of a follow-up question. So you said who's first based on most needy, based on iStation data.
Yep.
Is it possible that the iStation data and the MCAS data don't correlate, and somebody on MCAS is more needy than somebody on iStation? Could they perform better, for example, on iStation? Could it be a fluke? Or how do you know that data is reliable?
We do both. So we go through and we make a list, or the interventionists make a list. And then if you're yellow, like they just go right on down the line looking for it. The difference is that your MCAS score is really your overall score. And so the teachers kind of take a look at that, and then if there was a question about a specific area, you can see it by standard on that test. But because the MCAS is really a comprehensive score, like you get a 371, and that puts you in the yellow range, it's much harder to pull that apart per child. So again, even though it's correlated with iStation, we're taking the iStation subtest and then the overall score of MCAS and kind of looking at it that way. So it's a tough correlation between the two. But obviously anyone who is in the red or low yellow inside of MCAS is probably is definitely performing low on iStation. So they correlate within that respect. But we don't have anybody that's like in the green on iStation and in the red on MCAS or vice versa. So we haven't seen that effect.
And so you said up to 8th grade.
Yes, up
So
to
what
8th grade.
happens for our students above 8th grade?
We do not have a tier 2 program currently at the high school.
Okay. And then what are we doing for students that are performing in that meeting expectations with the hope that they would be exceeding expectations?
So at the middle school level, at the starting in Q2 in WIN block, students will then have the students who are not already targeted for targeted intervention will then have an opportunity to sign up for offerings that the teachers will offer. So there'll be an advanced math class, a reading book group, there will be a science lab opportunity and a social studies, like an advanced social studies opportunity, plus anything else additional that the teachers in that block that offer WIN at that time can offer out to the students. So the students will have that opportunity to get that advanced work within that space. Right now, WIN block is not being utilized to the best of its ability. So we would like to see students in that space, in an academic space. You can get what you need for targeted intervention, but everybody else should also have the opportunity to get to areas of interest. Like, there are some kids that just enjoy math and would like to do more challenging problems, and kids that really enjoy science and would like to do more hands-on. So these are opportunities that we're offering out starting very soon. We had all our teachers, say what they were willing to offer, and then each one, and then now the sign up will go out to the students, and they'll get like a first choice and a second choice. And then every term, they'll get the same opportunity as well to put in for it. And then any of our students that are in a targeted intervention will then also get the opportunity. So if they went to targeted intervention during second quarter, they will then get the opportunity to do something else that their peers are doing. Obviously, unless they needed a second or they needed an ELA intervention as well. But we don't want to also take away opportunities from everybody to get an opportunity to do more advanced work or more hands-on work if that's what they prefer.
So you said it was a choice.
Yes.
Do they have to sign up for at least one thing, or could some child say,
Oh, no, you have to sign up for something. It's not an option. So anyone that's not getting the targeted intervention needs to sign up for one of these other choices.
All right, I'm just gonna go right, Mrs. Forbes said something.
Thanks. Just a quick question. Advocating for the parents. So let's talk about first grader who isn't meeting expectations. We have honed in on the data, and it's the short vowel issue.
Yep.
So the letter goes home and says, your child's been targeted, we're working on this. A, are we explaining what that is? And then giving parents some guidance or thoughts on how they could reinforce what we're working towards when they're reading stories or reading the cereal box or whatever it is. Because I know that short vowel sounds means nothing to a lot of people. And I would assume that we're giving some sort of explanation and then a little bit of, because that homeschool connection is so important. And if they're getting it all day and then even just a little bit in the evening or the morning before school. So that was my question. Do we do something?
No.
Okay.
It's typically a letter goes out and then it says, if you would like more information, please reach out to the interventionist. So the parent has the opportunity to reach out to the interventionist. We were trying last year with the iStation. Sometimes at the end of the year, we printed stuff out for parents to do over the summer, but it's just I don't want to say but it's a 3-week intervention space so that a parent can say, oh, I'm just not sure, can I get more information on this? And then we can get parents' information that way. But then it will come up at the end of 3 weeks. Most of the time, the children test out, and then they're back into the classroom, and then the next group is kind of scooped up, and then work is done that way. That doesn't mean that child's done with intervention. They might come up in another group later on, but for now, they've kind of had that targeted intervention. They pass and move forward. If a child doesn't pass and move forward, then again, that's when there would be a reach out to the parents to say, we just wanted to let you know. So then our interventionists would then do more of a personalized kind of get in touch with the parents to let them know.
so follow-up question, Mrs.
Well,
Forbes?
hang on, I think she had.
Okay.
I was just gonna say, so I definitely think that a lot of parents hesitate If you need more information, reach out. Oh my gosh, I should know what this is. I don't want to look like a dummy. I don't want to bother the teacher. So I guess I would ask that if there is anything we could add to that letter, just saying some suggestions. Just on, it's a form letter, I'm guessing.
Yes, it is.
So for each of the different components, which the decoding, encoding, short vowel, long vowel, all of that, I just think that it would be helpful, and not all parents have the opportunity to do that, but for those who do, I would love to see us giving some guidance to home.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe like on the back, we can just break down all the categories, and then you could find your category on the back. And then
Yeah, and I don't mean to be creating any more work, because I know it's hard, and because it is the 3 weeks at a time, but I just, if we can connect with them, and we just did that survey, so of course red flags are going off just about things that parents feel we don't communicate well, and I don't want the educational piece to be one of those.
Absolutely. It's a good idea. Thank you.
So,
You all set, Mrs.
I'm all
Forbes?
set.
All right,
Yeah,
Mrs.
thank you.
Griffin?
just to piggyback off of
Yep.
Mrs. Forbes' statement, and you said it was 3 weeks, I think about spiraling, right? So 3 weeks, you move on to the next unit. How do they spiral back, and how are you assessing that they have mastery?
So once you come up in iStation
Yeah.
as low in phonemic awareness, then there's a range within phonemic awareness. So then you work one-on-one with the interventionist, you pre-screen into a group. So then it's a very targeted instruction. It's not phonemic awareness, it is these 3 components of phonemic awareness. So then at the end of the 3 weeks, the child is then screened again with that same screener to see if the child has made growth. And so that's really what we're kind of looking at within that space. But every month, they're screened again universally using iStation. So that first grader would then, if now they screen again, we should technically see in that iStation screening that phonemic awareness go up. If we saw it go up with targeted intervention with the screeners, then we expect to see that it also goes up on the iStation piece. And we're just doing this year. So this is something new. I know that this week, this month at Barton, the interventionists will be going over specifically now with the teachers on their next data meeting, the kids that are in intervention and the growth that they've made within this space, and then correlating it to the iStation data. So this will be the first time that that has gone through, because last year we did not have teachers give the monthly iStation. It was kind of purchased last minute and I did not realize that we didn't own it last year, so that it then became really quickly, we just needed to get the benchmarks into place. And then this year we've now had our teachers trained, and now that they've already been through the training, the teachers know now how to do this, and then they can give the monthly assessments to the kids. So this will be our first time getting to do that.
And then how long do those assessments take? So each teacher is doing this monthly, how much time?
It's 15 to 20 minutes per subject. So a lot of teachers use iStation we have a built-in small group time or blended learning time, so that like while, it's like centers. So while I'm at this center with my small group, there's one center doing their iStation and one center playing a math game. And then when it's time to move, it's time to move. The task iStation itself will, if a child can pause it or just clicks off of it, the next time they go in, it's going to keep them going until it's complete. So some teachers do it as morning work, some teachers do it during their center time, some teachers just stop and have the whole class do it. It just depends on the teacher personality. But the teachers did talk specifically, they would really like all of the teachers to do it the very first week of the month. Because if my date is the first week of November, but September's date is the last week of November, we're going to see a difference in that. So a lot of the teachers have talked specifically, and again, that's the great work that comes from getting to now meet at those data meeting times to have those conversations. When do you want to give it so that we have equitable across the board? And that's kind of, but then how the teachers do it in their classroom is up to them. But it only takes about 15, 20 minutes per topic, which is a typical amount of time for a small group instruction to meet.
So just to that point, in my district, we have an assessment calendar, so
Yes.
when we do the STAR, we just give a window, so maybe
Yes.
I don't know if you guys do that, but
Yes.
that'd be a good thing. All right, there's been a lot of iStation conversation, can we let her present that, or do you have a quick follow-up on MCAS? or-
MCAS, quick.
Sure.
if you don't mind.
MCAS question.
Just a couple things to go back to what some of our members said. I'll kind of go backwards to what September was saying first, and I think you're speaking kind of globally about our response when a student is going to receive intervention.
Yes.
I can tell you from personal experience with a student who struggled, our interventionists, our Kelly Delgados and Jill Kofsky's do an amazing job of letting us as parents know what our students struggling with, what we can help them with at home. So those details I think we do get if you have a student going through it. But I understand what you're saying about that form letter that goes home having a little more information on it. And the other thing I just want to comment on MCAS. Personally, I'm not an MCAS fan. I just want us to be careful about talking about interventions based on MCAS results. I think what we do with iStation gives us more information, gives us more immediate information. I think when we pair the two together, it can give us some good information. But I'm excited to move on to the iStation stuff because I think that's where your plan can be seen.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay. So, in terms of our iStation data, so students take, like we said, a monthly assessment, about 20 minutes on math, about 20 minutes on ELA, and then we get an idea. So what we did is, of course, we started in the month of September to get an idea of where that information is going to kind of be. And when we look at these numbers do correlate, or these numbers are higher than our MCAS numbers. So these are students coming in, the students that are meeting grade level. These numbers for K, we had 41% of our kids come in at grade level. And then when I look at the rest, instead of saying all the numbers, we're at about 55%. So most of our kids at the beginning of the school year, when they come in, they score, 55% of them score, or about half of them are scoring at grade level. So when they enter. However, the test grows as the student grows. So September's test doesn't stay all year long. October's test gets significantly harder because they've had a month of school. And then each one gets consistently harder until it meets end of year expectations for all of the students. It also tests in all strands every time. So we cannot just set it to test like, oh, well, I only did geometry this term in math. Let me see how kids do in geometry. That's not how it works. So as geometry increases, also our adding, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing should also be increasing as well, because that math, like Palmina brought up, is spiraled. It is ongoing. Math isn't taught in silos. All of this grows and goes together. So I'm very happy with what our iStation looks like. Saying that half of our kids come in at grade level does make me feel pretty good.
All right,
Obviously,
yes. Do you mind just clarifying the colors for us? So red indicates what?
Red indicates well below.
Well below.
Yeah, and yellow is your favorite partially meeting.
Okay.
And then
Lime.
the 3 levels of green, all of them are in the range of meeting expectations. But the lightest green means that they're close to that yellow edge. So in other words, there's a safety in there. And if I was going to do intervention, I may still include some of my kids that are in the light green. It means they are grade level and they are meeting expectations, but they are, they're close. They're on the cusp kind of kiddos.
So it's fair to say that the lime, I'll just call it lime, is close to yellow.
Yep.
And then light green, we would consider meeting, and then green is exceeding. Is that fair to say?
No, green is not exceeding. It just means that you are, well, I guess it just means you're super far up into the green. I mean, I guess that's the easiest way to say it. You're right, because iStation doesn't really have an exceeding.
Okay.
So, but it just means that you are.
And I know I deal with STAR in my district, so we can set a percentage, and I can change the percentages. So this data here, what percentage was it set at for us to be able to determine proficiency here? Is there like a percentage, the 40%, 50%? That's like the where you drop. Like where does the 33% well below in kindergarten come from? Because we have to have a number, right? There has to be a baseline number that we're driving these percentages off of.
So these are based on scores. So these are based on the idea of you need this score in order to pass.
Right, so what is the score?
That I do not know. It's different at every grade level.
Because like I'm saying, in STAR, like we could set ours at 40%, which is what we did during COVID, but that's below proficiency. So and then I can bump it up to 50%, see where I'd be at.
Yeah,
60%.
no.
That's why, again, I'm not trying to debate or
Yep.
try to say these numbers aren't accurate, but it's gonna be based on where our benchmark number is at.
Right, this is based on national norms. We can't adjust what is considered proficient.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have
That's
that.
how ours works. It's a nationally normed test.
Yeah,
so
it's a
This
national
is based
test.
on kindergartners across the nation who've taken that test.
So you can't go in and change the percentages as to where you want your numbers to, like.
Right. Now I know what you mean. I know what you're talking about
Okay.
with Star, but no, in this
All
one,
right, good to know. I didn't know
It's
that.
set.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, sorry.
No,
continue.
that's totally fine. It's a good question. Yeah, no, we can't, I can't adjust that. The expectations are the expectations. So the most important part about this is that our yellow and our light green friends, because that is a really, really big focus. So last year in our interventions, we really focused on our friends that were kind of in the red and high yellow. And then, as you notice, in our town, especially on our MCAS scores, we actually have a very large percentage in the yellow. And so our big focus this year is much more on the yellow space, because these are kids that are on the cusp, that with that little bit of extra intervention would actually more likely get into that green space. So, and then of course, I would really like to see the green move into more of exceeding, especially in the area of MCAS as well. So when I look at this, I would love to see, obviously less red. We'd all like to see less red. But the truth is, I think, true to a lot of the points being made tonight, we'd also like to see a lot less yellow. And I really feel that that's where our tier 2 energy should really lie. So this year, I've spent time talking with the teachers about this, and I've talked extensively with each grade level, and said that we do have our interventionists, and that most of the grade levels agreed that yellow is really the kiddos we need to target for this work. And then the red are now left for the classroom teachers to do their small group with. Most of the time, the teacher is the expert in that field, and the red is typically a smaller group. There might be 2 or 3 friends in red, where I might have 7 or 8 in yellow, because you can see that our yellow numbers are pretty high, even in our MCAS space. So this year, we've decided that we're gonna do a lot of focus our intervention on our yellow friends, and that the red will save for the teachers. Last year, we did the switch, so we're gonna give it a try this year to see where do we kind of get more bang for our buck in terms of helping out these kids. Because the younger I can get them out of the yellow, the more likely they'll stay in that green and have that success in those pieces. So I'd love to see that shrink down, so that by the time they get to middle school, a big focus could be green to blue, because there is another color, not on iStation, but on MCAS. There's a blue, there's an exceeding category. And if you look at most of ours, we are in the 0 or 1 that might be an exceeding, which is really very low when we know we have a lot of advanced and very bright students.
Yeah, just one, so calculating the students meeting grade level on the overview K-8 reading.
Yep.
You're taking green, light green, and lime.
Yes.
Is that my assumption?
Yes.
And that's driving that number?
That drives that number.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Griffin?
So, from what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, the teachers are really focusing more on giving interventions and tiered instruction to the students that are really struggling. But those students that are in the green, that are solid in the green, what are we doing for them?
So they have the same piece. So the other part of iStation that I know is a bone of contention, and I do understand, but this is also set directly for the students, so that after you take the very first day of the month, iStation reverts to the benchmark test. But all the other days of the month, iStation is at your level. So whatever work you're working on, so we could have students in 3rd grade that are working on 5th grade geometry, because that's where they scored. And so they scored that much higher. So when a child goes in to now work on these during that small group instruction time, then that is where those pieces are. So unfortunately, anything that's done that's advanced is really based on teacher. So depending on the teacher that you have, we have no advanced opportunities unless a teacher is putting it out there.
But our teachers from what I'm understanding, are giving the tiered instruction to the students that are not meeting expectations.
All of our teachers should be giving tiered instruction
So
regardless.
what do our students get for direct instruction, or is it they sit in front of a computer and the computer gives them the instruction for iStation?
No, there's two periods every day. One of direct instruction, so they get, let's say, a 90-minute block of ELA time. That's all tier 1 direct instruction. And then there's additional small group time. In math, we have a 45-minute tier 1 direct instruction, and then we have an additional 45-minute centers for math. So every child is getting tier 1, but then the students who need it during those additional times will get their tiered instruction. And if it's if it's kids that are struggling, they are working directly with the teacher. And that's not to say there aren't teachers that don't do advanced work with students either when they come to the table, but it's just not something that we're just not there yet.
I guess for tier 1, right, how are you differentiating, to be very blunt, to the highest performing students? Are they just getting the direct tier 1 instruction for like the students that just kind of fall in a certain area, but the students that seem to be the best and the brightest, what are they getting to differentiate their instruction?
It depends on what the teacher's offering. Our program offers that. I don't know if teachers are offering it out to the students.
So for equity, because that again is this big push in this that we're looking at, I would want to know, like, we're spending a lot of focus on being equitable to our students that obviously need, you know, tier 2 or tier 3 interventions. But for students that, again, we're trying to get into that blue category for performance and MCAS, it doesn't sound like we have a plan. And moving forward, I really am advocating for a very strong plan so we meet the needs of all learners in our district. Because when we look at the 8th grade and we go back to the scores that were here, they're alarming.
Yeah.
They're so concerning that I forget the exact number. It should be ingrained in my head. But the majority of our students are up there and they're not accessing the curriculum, it seems like. And those that seem to be the best and the brightest, they don't have like peers. And so they're really just sticking out and they're not getting the education they deserve. That might be part of our issue. I'll stop in a second, but that might be a part of our issue when we keep looking at why are students leaving this district. We just really need to think about this.
Mr. Burke, one quick point, and then let's let Tara move on so she can get into the actual grade level reports that really break down the topic areas that I think are important. So why don't
Okay.
Corey,
So just
can
from
you-
our subcommittee meeting.
Yeah.
I recall you talking about a push for UDL that's coming up with the staff. And
Yes.
to me, my understanding with UDL is that it's a great opportunity for providing some of those opportunities for those kids that are excelling.
Absolutely.
To learn the
yes.
way they
It puts
learn
more
best.
voice and autonomy into the work for the student.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but that's also a big mindset shift
Yeah.
for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It will take time, but that is the platform.
But I do think we do have teachers who understand differentiation and do provide those opportunities for some of those kids. I mentioned my struggling student. I also have 2 students who didn't need to look at a book and get an A, but I know that they had some opportunities to be pushed. So it's out there.
Absolutely.
Mr. Burke, to your point, it should be for all students though. And that's with the UDL, that hopefully we'll get to that
Yeah,
point. And I
that-
know
that
there's a
was the
plan,
point.
but I really want to see like, how far out is that plan? Is it a year away? Is it months away? Is it 2 years away? And I guess that goes back to the superintendent's, plan for the whole district.
Right, but all we have right now is what's in front of us.
Right.
Because every day that goes by is a day that a student
loss.
misses out on opportunities. So
Absolutely.
let's hear, because I'm really interested to hear more about the breakdown by topics in each grade. So I don't know if you just want to pick a few grades, because in the interest of time, that you want to hone in on, or just
Yeah,
explain
that's up
to
to
us
you.
how you.
If you,
Yeah,
if
just
there
pick
are,
a few grades.
I was gonna say if there are particular, because I was gonna kind of scooch over.
Yeah, maybe pick an
but-
elementary grade and a
Sure.
middle school grade, whatever one you want to do.
Yeah,
Just kind of
absolutely.
explain to us how this data derives, what the plans are.
All right, then let me just switch. Okay, So, if we take a look at, let's say, we'll go, we can just look at first grade, because that's that's the middle of the road at Chafee. So if we look at first grade, it's slide 21. You
ELA,
can,
early reading of
yeah, ELA.
okay.
So if you take a look at ELA, you can see now all of the different subtests that go into the makeup of a child's score. So you can get their overall reading score, which is the first sheet that we looked at was overall reading, but now you can get a really good look. And I do understand that the letters at the bottom might be confusing, but on the right side, I wrote them out with the total on the side. So you can kind of get an idea. So these are spaces and ways that we can have a better understanding of what makes a child strong in the area of reading. We have finally, our state is recognizing dyslexia as a major issue, and they are now requiring schools to have regular testing for areas like dyslexia. And it's pieces like this that break it down for us very clearly. So what we also, I think, is super important is the idea that a child could be green, could be overall green in the highest green, but you could look at phonemic awareness and it could be red, which means that child needs support because that is a building block of reading. So right now, they're scraping by, they're getting it, they look grade level, but by the time they hit third grade, it's gonna rear its ugly head, and then that child is gonna make a major dive. So the important aspect is first knowing the components of what makes a reader, and what are the most important aspects. Same thing if we look at grade 1 and the next one for math, it's the same thing in the same piece. So what we wanna do is take a good look at what are the most important aspects, and even though I see high numbers, it's really that area of number sense that is of most concern. So when we talk about number sense for parents at home and just for us at the table, number sense is the breakdown of a number. So a lot of times when we learn about a number, we learn it's just a number. So a lot of us when we went to school, a 10 is a 10. What's a 10? It's a 10. It's 10 items, it's 10, and that was kind of it. But in the world of math, a 10 is not just a 10. A 10 is a lot of things. You know, it's a 9 and a 1. It's a 5 and a 5. It is, 5 of one thing, 5 of another. There are all different aspects that make up 10. And do kids understand these numbers inside and out? And there's also, of course, the area of place value, which are really, really important. And it comes into play later on. So in the world of first grade, things look really good. So I don't want to be like, oh, wow, look, our kids are so great at algebraic thinking. We're not going to take any math kids for grade 1. But we really have to look specifically at the number sense. And in iStation, I can actually click on number sense. It's going to tell me who's in the red, who's in the yellow, and then at what areas, even within number sense, that they're struggling with, and I can see their tests. In this report, most of it is all one-to-one correspondence. They show the kids 7 apples and say how many apples are here, and a child is expected to count, and then click on the number 7. So for students that are struggling at this level, it is the most basic of number sense. In first grade, they need to know up to 20, so they have to be able to do one-to-one correspondence up to 20 pieces of something. So that's what we're really kind of looking at. So this is where we get our best information from all of these little subtests that are along the way. And then if we scroll into the world of third or fourth grade, if we take a look at fourth grade, it's on slide 30. We take a look at their reading, and we can see that one of the biggest areas of concern in reading in general is fluency. Fluency comes at, we go phonemic awareness, which is sounds, we have our phonics and our decoding, and after a child has been through that, they bump into the world of fluency. So you can see fluency is low. It's the next marker of where kids need to be in the world of fourth grade. So we can see, there it is right there. So we can see our fluency is low. So if you look at the last column, you can see a lot more red. But if I judged it by the first column, which is overall reading, I'd be like, oh, this is great. But then when I look at what students actually need in terms of a breakdown in the world of fourth grade, there are a lot more students that need support in reading than you would normally get if you just looked at the overall reading piece. So, and then of course, the same thing holds true in math. We take a look at, again, number sense, and then when we get to fourth grade, we also really look at computations and algebraic thinking, because these two areas just start to become very strong in this area. I'm not stressing over geometry right now because this is new. Third grade starts geometry, fourth grade is significantly different. Everything in third grade is quadrilateral based, that's it. in geometry in terms of fourth grade, there's a big jump. So the kids haven't done a lot of past learning in geometry. So to see that score low doesn't cause me any anxiety because by the end of the year, they'll have actually had the instruction. But I am still concerned about number sense and algebraic thinking. These are things that have been going on for quite a while. So that's how we use this data to best make decisions. The subtests help us to determine who is struggling and in what areas that need to be back built, because there's no teacher in fourth grade that's going to now work on one-to-one correspondence. It's not going to happen. So if we don't catch the kiddos at this space, at this time, then it's really tough. And if you go all the way up to, say, 8th grade, again, you're going to see the same thing. So the slides 38 and 39 are the reading and math for iStation. And it's the same thing. We look to see, like, where are our students still struggling? By the time they get to 8th grade, if you're a struggling reader and you've been through phonemic awareness and you've been through phonics and you've been through fluency, the next area is vocabulary. So I could become a fluent reader, but it's going to be hindered. My comprehension will be hindered if I don't even recognize the vocabulary words that I'm sounding out and saying within my stories. So vocabulary is the next piece. So at the higher grade levels, we spend after their fluency space, then we fall into the vocabulary space. So that's kind of the flow of how things go that way. And then of course, in the areas of math, this is if you are low in computation and algebraic thinking in the areas of 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math, that's considered behind that space, and that's where the interventions really push to get our students moving and going. We did this year put in a pre-algebra class, which is an advanced pre-algebra, which is an advanced math class for 7th grade. There are 31 children in that class, which that's a really high number. And then in 8th grade, we have 30 students in Algebra 1. So we do have that one kind of new space that has been added in for students who are at least advanced in math. That will help when kids go to high school, so they can start freshman year in geometry and then make their way up through calculus for students who are interested in mathematics. So that really takes, that's kind of everything. And then the biggest, newest change in our world that we've already talked about are these data meetings. We do not really have time built into the K-4 schedule, so this had to be built in on a once-a-month space. So we are working really hard, and we have a couple of people who have spent a lot of time and energy taking the entire grade level and doing great work with them, working on core values like respect and responsibility, and then also working on things like how to deal with stress, SEL issues, yoga, deep breathing, so that the kids also have strategies for when they're back in their classroom. They already get this as a part of their Tier 1 and their PE and their mindfulness class, and then these two women, Tara Bennett and Lisa Casillo and Jamie Taborda, they take the entire grade levels and then do this continued work with the students. So it's a great space for our students to be in, and then I selfishly get to steal all of that grade level and work with them, and that includes their special ed teachers. Anybody who works with these kids across the board is invited to this meeting. Their their administrator is in the room, so that everybody sits at that table, and by the end of the day, we all know every child. I can walk into any meeting at any time and say, okay, tell me about Lauren, tell me about Stacy, tell me about Julio. Like, tell me about these kids. I need to know, like, where are they at? Who's their tiered instructor? What are you working on? What was their last pre-screener? We all become on the same page, which is really, really nice for us to get to have that space. At OMS.
Could I just ask a
Yes,
question about
absolutely.
that? So is that tracked? Like, is that data tracked, or is that just conversations you're having on the fly and?
No, that data is tracked. So any child that's in our intervention is tracked when they went to intervention, what their
Great.
pre-screener score, what their post-screener score was, and then any notes on the side. That's a part of our data within our space.
That's awesome.
And then that way, if a parent meets with the teacher and the interventionist can't be there, the teacher knows everything, or if the parent meets with the interventionist, the teacher can't be there, everybody is on the same page who supports that child, all the way to Kristen, who then would know each child in her building getting the supports and what supports they're getting.
And that data's on.
That data is on a shared drive for us.
Yeah, it's a big spreadsheet.
Yeah.
That's great.
He's got what?
That's awesome, because we were trying to get that years ago, so I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Just before you move on, we're 2 hours into
Yeah.
our meeting. I know Genevieve has a rigorous schedule, so if you
Yes.
have to go, just pack
Yeah.
up and go.
Yes.
I don't want to keep her longer than
Yes.
2 hours. I think is fair for her to stay, so thank you, Genevieve.
Yes.
Thanks, Genevieve.
Bye, John.
Call Dave.
Okay, sorry, any more questions about the data meetings at the K-4 level?
No, I think you're going to action steps, right? Is that where you're heading?
I can absolutely go to action
Yeah, let's
steps,
head
absolutely.
down.
So our action steps, we took a look at, our MCAS data prior to the year, like really in. And we added an additional 30 minutes of math this year. So we were at a 60-minute math, we've changed it to 2 45-minute blocks. The teachers at least K to 2 level felt that they needed this time. They needed more time on math and more time to do these minutes, especially because we still do ST Math. We still do, we have iStation that's been added. We have a couple of other programs that have been added in as well, so that teachers just have the time that they need for math instruction. We've already talked about the middle school providing small group instruction during Tier 2 during all their WIN blocks. K4 has now an additional 30 minutes for writing every day. So we have a 90-minute ELA block, but then we added an additional 30-minute time. Again, anticipating that we would need a little bit more for our writing. For our building supports, when we are fully staffed, which we are not fully staffed at all of our buildings, but when we are fully staffed, we have 4 support persons at Chafee for intervention. We have 4 at Barton, and then we would have 6 at the middle school. So, and again, the large majority of these are ESSER funds, and this is our last year to really utilize as many of these additional support staff as we can. We are using iStation. Teachers are strongly encouraged to every month do their diagnostic, because then they sit and meet with me and we talk about our growth. Regular data meetings have been scheduled, so we have an assessment calendar, but we also have their data meetings are pre-planned, so that they are well aware in advance when their meetings are coming. We talked about, we purchased Unified Insights for teachers to be able to see all data, and soon for the parents to be able to see them. And then last but not least, in order to help me specifically in the area of math, we have hired a math coach that works specifically with grades 7, 8, 9, and 10 to help those teachers do daily formative assessments. I also have 4 different teachers this year teaching Algebra 1. That has not always been the case. And in order to keep the continuity within there, so in other words, no matter what teacher you have, you are still getting the same class. So they now all have the same exit ticket every day, and they share the same map, their pacing map guide, that they actually got together as a team and wrote over this last summer. So that was really exciting to see that the team really rally around typically be our freshman students and our 1 8th grade class that are now getting this opportunity to get a much better system of instruction and more uniform across the board, and then a coach that works with them every week to make sure that there's common planning, to help them with any of that common planning, any issues that they're running into, and then they daily can look over their data for their exit tickets and then make great decisions with that as well. So if in my classroom, only 32% of my class got the exit ticket, but in Corey's classroom, 93% got it, this is a great time for Corey and I to now have a conversation to say, what language are you using? How are you able to get this across? Because now I'm going to go behind a day behind Corey because I'm not leaving my kids behind. I've got to still get this instruction across. So then the teachers, it's a great opportunity for them to have conversations together about how we teach in a classroom, but also then to make sure that our students have the same academic opportunities. So those are our action steps for this year.
Any questions or additional comments, Mrs. Griffin?
So this is kind of like a big picture question, but like back with the lens of equity.
Yeah.
Like I know we've talked about scheduling, and that's something that I think that the school's looking at, and you're looking at reporting with report cards and all sorts of things. But like at some point, I'd love our committee to get a little bit of a presentation on like the time on learning, how many minutes for each subject. We got some of that tonight for each grade, right? And to understand how much of that is direct instruction, how much is it of the kids using different platforms a week, what really boils down to the classroom. And then you talked about how certain kids perform in certain classes and teachers are having those discussions, but there's more than just the discussion of, the teacher instruction. Also, it's the makeup of the class. Like, I'd love to know, how are our classes made up? Do we have equity in each room? Do we have like learners? Do we have, what does our classrooms look like as far as, are we using a co-teaching model? Are we using other types of things? Because we're looking now at peeling back all the support and moving forward next year. I haven't really heard yet Like, what's the game plan to make sure that our classrooms and our teachers are gonna be fully supported and succeed? I'm imagining that's in the works, it's behind the scenes, but budget is coming up rapidly, and pretty soon we need to hear. I haven't really heard anything yet, like, how are we gonna still make sure that each classroom teacher has that support? And then, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounded like that 8th grade class in particular, this year, just looking at their results, needs really more support than the other classes. And then the 9th graders seem to need a significant amount of support, yet it doesn't seem like there's anything really there. And that, to me, based on the data now, is a new priority for me to advocate for, and I would hope all members of this committee, what are we gonna do for them moving forward?
Yep, so we
That's my
definitely do
take.
have plans for those in place for next year, but it's
But
not.
like, what about this year? Because if you see that the students right now are not making it, and that's the 8th grade, and then the 9th grade, presently, correct me if I'm wrong, 88% of them were not getting where they need to go, then we're failing a large majority of students. And then we had the presentation from Mr. Lucas with the data last year, where we got a report that basically like 50-something% of our students were failing at least one class when they were entering as freshmen in the high school. We have a lot of data on the table right now, but we're not addressing those glaringly concerning issues. I think we knock it out of the park when we're talking about our elementary schools and our younger students. But when we get to our students that are going into the middle school and going into the high school, and again, we have this huge issue of people choicing out of the district, the writing's on the wall. We have the data here right now. I can't wait until next year. Our families can't wait till next year. What are we doing?
Well, and, I mean, if you don't mind me jumping in fairness, I mean, I brought
Yes.
that data up, but we don't know, I mean, you know, what the high school has the ability to do is level classes, right?
Right.
So a lot of these students could be in a, and I don't like to say leveled, I just like to say closing the gap type of classes so that, you know, the teacher can deliver instruction to the entry point of that profile of student, right? That maybe they're struggling learners or they have a math issues, whatever it is. So I think up here, it would be interesting to know, based on that data from last year, how some of these kids are doing. And that's that transition piece. And, you know, I talk about it a lot with the staff in our school. Like, we have the ability from 6 to 7 and 7 to 8 to really have those deep conversations. We have departments that are pretty tight with our high school so that we share information. I mean, really here, it should be happening without an issue, because the kids are leaving from there and just coming up the street here. So that'd be something to, you know, maybe just check in with Tara, like, identify that group, I mean, not Tara, Becky, and identify that group of students, and maybe just after the first quarter now, see where they're at.
Yeah, of
And
course.
maybe provide any additional support, because, you know, I've said it earlier, I think every day that goes by, you know, we have to, maybe it's not the perfect plan we want in place yet, but we have to try to put something in place
Right.
to support those kids, especially if data's showing it.
And that we're,
Hold on one second, Mr. Burke, go ahead.
And one of the concerns from the data was that 8th grade, and especially in the math area.
Yeah.
But I mean, I understand we don't have more bodies to throw at some of these problems. But it does say in your plan that part-time math coach is working with those 8th grade
Yep,
teachers correctly?
7th and 8th grade, yes, because we realize when you talk numbers at this deficit, we're talking about a tier 1 instruction problem.
Right.
So it's not a tier 2 problem. I mean, if
Right.
you looked at it, we'd have 88% of kids in tier 2. That doesn't make sense. So the problem is tier 1. And so it's really working and coaching up those teachers to get to the crux of what is the issue here.
Right.
Because those numbers don't make any sense.
But
It's
just
like
to,
mind.
just to what Mr. Burke was saying, I mean, obviously, the 8th grade and 7th grade should be reflecting on the data that just went up
Mm-hmm.
here, but I was more focused on the kids that are here, the tangible bodies that had those scores, like, what are we doing to support them up here?
As now 9th graders.
Right, as now 9th graders,
Which
but
I believe
no.
that math coach is servicing also.
Right, and I think you just brought it up, because you started your presentation with tier 1 instruction, and then in the action steps, it's really all driven about supports for
Right.
tier 2 and 3. And really, tier 1, again, hopefully the part-time coach and others, we're really looking at our tier one instruction and, you know, in evaluating where we're at, and even if we have to take a few steps back to come forward, I mean, we talk at our department meetings all the time about, you know, we have to look at things a little differently coming out of 2020, and, you know, again, the beauty in the buildings are, if you can get the majority, 80% plus of your population maybe getting 3/4 of the sixth grade math curriculum. But then, you know, going into seventh grade, we have to start and maybe, you know, pick up a few of those sixth grade standards and move forward. It's hard, like I can I'm looking at in my head a couple of the teachers looking at me going, what? But we have to think a little differently coming out of it, and it's okay. And when we analyze MCAS data, we can say, yeah, you know what? We didn't get to that standard, and that's why we're a little bit low there. So we know. But then we can have the conversation internally with the next grade level saying, hey, here's where we gotta start. I think sometimes we, you know, and again, I'm thinking as a principal right now, we put our hat on and we feel like we gotta fix it all at once. We can't do that. But we have to start somewhere and then grow it, right? And that's why those conversations, I hope, happen in data meetings, that we look and just say, hey, listen, we need to get 80% of our kids to be at proficiency, and if that means we have to slow the pace down a little bit, so be it. But then we also have to make sure that with that differentiation, we're challenging our higher achievers, so we're not letting them get stagnant. So it's a challenge.
It is a challenge.
But I just think, again, I think it starts in tier one, and as you said many times, and I agree with you, and maybe we just have to look at tier one a little different, you know, and it's okay, but you said earlier, it's a mindset thing too, because people are in the mindset, no, I gotta get through all these standards by June. I'd rather we don't want you doing 100% of your standards at 65%. I'd rather have you do 80% of your standards at 80% plus. And then knowing what we need to do next year for planning, you know, that's kind of where I'm at. Yes, Mrs. Forbes?
So I just have a question, actually based on the meeting that we had prior to this meeting, when they were talking about class sizes and staffing.
Yeah.
And it just sort of jumped out at me when looking through all this. You had the number of teachers and the number of students.
Yes.
For each of the K through 4.
Yes.
I'm curious where we have 101 students in one grade level with 7 teachers and 101 students in another grade level with 5 teachers. So I look at the numbers and I say, 20 in our kindergarten, 14 in our third grade. How do we come up with that, and is there a way to make that a little bit, I know that kindergarten's a super challenging year. A smaller class size there would be great. I know it's kind of late in the game, but being that this was brought to my attention at like 5:30, just curious, how do we work that, and how does that happen?
We are attempting a new model that we are piloting this year that we're hoping will work for next year. So every grade level was given an opportunity this year. The opportunity was, you may take the assigned amount of teachers that you have for your grade level and have small class size, which we had tried last year. Or you can take a teacher that will come out of the classroom and will be your tier 2 person. They are your person that comes in and co-teaches with you. They are your person that helps with your behavior issues, that the child that needs some tier 2 behavior, the child that needs some tier 2 SEL, or tier 2 academics. So we take someone at that grade level who is a master of teaching in that space. So yes, class sizes are about 3 more kids per room in kindergarten, but we have an additional support person who is a master at that grade level. So the person who, the grade levels made the decisions themselves. And then we took a master teacher and put them within that space. It is a model that we are looking at for next year because we will not have interventionists. And so that is one opportunity. So we have 2 grade levels that took us up on it and 2 master teachers that are working very hard within that space. They're an extra interventionist at grade level.
Mrs. Forbes, is that you all set?
I hear the answer. I just question the logic behind it and moving forward if it's been successful. It's a 6 student difference for the youngest learners. And I just feel like that's the grade. And I understand having the expert who goes around and helps everybody out, but that's one body divided by 5 classrooms. Yes, there are other interventionists that work there, or that are available to them, but I think I would rather see a little bit more level student population across, lower numbers, obviously, higher in some, lower in others. I don't know. I appreciate the answer. I'll have to think about that.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Griffin.
I go back to the STAR report. I go back to, the data always says smaller class sizes, more effective, less student behaviors. We use that data to actually drive why we made our class sizes so small before as a committee. And to throw that out is troubling to me.
Well, I'm just concerned that, you know, the MCAS scores were still really low.
I get
And
it.
you're asking me about tier 2, so I'm telling you, this is something we are trying.
Right.
Because next year, we're going down to 5 teachers per grade level next year. No matter how big those numbers are, we have to go back to pre-ESSER numbers. So what we're trying to do is come up with a really strategic way, and I can't slam it on teachers all of a sudden. We had a great opportunity. 20 kids in a classroom is a low class size. And I know it sounds big to us because last year we had some at 14 and 15, but the truth is at my 4th grade, we have 8 teachers slotted for that. So we went down to 7, and we have an amazing person now that's working at intervention for ELA and math, and it's a really big support for our teachers. When you have a child who is melting down and breaking down within your classroom, and you have a tier 2 space to send them instantly, that is a big support for our teachers. We are struggling with behaviors. We are struggling with SEL, even with small class sizes.
Right.
And so having this person that is on target and is there for you 24/7 to get what you need, we are seeing really, really unique behaviors within our schools that we cannot handle. And if I have every teacher in a classroom, even if you have 12, who is helping you when you have 2 melting down? We don't have it. We have kids coming into kindergarten that are not potty trained. We have kids coming in that are selective mutes. We have kids coming in that are harming themselves and others. We have kids that are threatening to hurt themselves at very young levels. We do not have the staff that we need in order to do this. And if I take every great teacher I have and I give them a class of 15, although class sizes are small and that's great, there are no extra supports within that space. If I could have every classroom have 2 adults in it, that's the model that we would roll with. That would be spectacular because that is the support that we all need. The truth is we don't have it, and I'm about to reduce our staff by almost half in some of our areas. We're losing special ed teachers at kindergarten. Like next year kindergarten, it's gonna be tough and those grade levels are going to be high. So what we decided to do is let's try slightly bigger class size to see if it will work. And that's what we're trying at 4th grade, and that's what we're trying at kindergarten, because we had the opportunity.
Class sizes, though, in 4th grade are at 16, according to my quick math. 3rd grade, 14, 2nd grade, 16, 1st grade, 15, kindergarten, 20.
When the original numbers went, we were supposed to have 90 kids coming into kindergarten. It was predicted 90.
Okay.
So we thought 90, we had like 75 signed up by the end of summer. We usually gain another 15 or so over the summer. So the prediction was 90, and we thought this is great. We had reached out to families that hadn't come to the testing. Some had moved, some had whatever. So we thought, okay, this will be great. And then we got hit. So we were expecting 90, and then it was about the day before school, and the decision was, do we roll with this idea or do we open up another classroom? And do we put that person back in? So it was a tough decision. And there were a lot of kindergarten teachers. I think that's when the kindergarten kind of split. There were some of them thinking, I don't know, I'm getting kind of nervous with 20. But we've always had like 20 in a classroom. Again, that idea of having the ESSER money and having 7 and 8 teachers per grade level is a dream. Like I cannot imagine teaching a class, and my class is 14. That has to be something that's amazing. I am also not a post-COVID teacher. And I watch the behaviors, and I see what's going on. And as much as 14 is amazing, it's a heavy 14. And
That's why I'm worried about 20 in kindergarten.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. It's a heavy 20.
It is a heavy 20.
Yeah.
It is, and not what we knew, not what we expected. Kids came in just 20-something kids came in, hadn't even been screened yet, just showed up on the first day. And so there's just a lot that was just not, again, it was just a heavy hit in an area that it was like Do we make the change late in the game? Like I said, day before school, run another classroom, rerun it, pull kids out of each room and put it in. And I think at that point, I would definitely encourage you to reach out to kindergarten teachers and see, you know, I can't really speak for them. I know that both were a challenging idea.
Anything else, Mrs. Forbes?
So I know
Griffin?
in prior years, like, different superintendents, we had that conversation as a committee. And it was several times before we realized all of a sudden we have this bigger enrollment than anticipated the
Okay.
first week of
Yep.
school. And the superintendent has brought that data forth to the committee very proactively and said, hey, what are we gonna do? And we've had this discussion kind of publicly with families too. And we kind of brainstormed on the fly. And I think for families to kind of hear that discussion too, like, helps a lot. And proactively understand like the thought behind it, because otherwise sometimes it seems like, well, what are you doing? We don't even know what your plan is. And so I think that this conversation is very important, and I appreciate that it's happening at this point right now, but I would have wished it would have happened a little bit earlier. Just so our families, again, I'm a big transparency, like, get that data in parents' hands, which I'm still waiting for, and hearing things, the sooner the better. I do get concerned when we pull a master teacher and sometimes think that the best thing is to have them try to support every single child, because sometimes we know there's limited amounts of minutes, and this is what Mrs. Forbes was saying, and time and resources. And sometimes the thought might be a different way of structuring classrooms and maybe putting that master teacher in a way that they could leverage more supports maybe for the most needy students, but also meeting the requirements by the state for like what you have to have as a makeup of a classroom. That's why I said like those conversations would be great, and I'm sure that they're happening. I just, you know, I would love to hear more at some point how all those things happen and all those thoughts. I think it's really helpful for us to hear these things. It helps our families understand that we are doing all this awesome work behind the scenes. So I thank you for sharing what you shared this evening.
Any additional questions or comments for Mrs. Trainer?
Just love to hear 8th grade and 9th grade. That's all, what's happening for those kiddos.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Eric.
We do have some minutes to approve, regular minutes of October 24th.
Make a motion to approve those meeting minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Call for the vote. Ms. Cook? Mrs. Forbes?
Yes.
Mrs. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
I'm a yes. 5 yes. Minutes pass. Central Office Superintendent of Schools Personnel Update.
Yes, thank you. I'd just like to first welcome some new employees to Oxford. Zach Tremblay is our new instructional aide district-wide. Jack Superner is our technology assistant in the IT department district-wide as well. Maria Udiciano is our preschool instructional aide at Barton. And Megan Caraher is our new Title I reading math interventionist for Barton as well. So we'd like to welcome them to the Oxford Public Schools.
Yep, Mr. Burke?
Yep. Mike Tara had just alluded to some of our positions still being unfilled. Is that just a lack of quality candidates, or?
Yeah, it's that, and we've hired folks, and then they've had to leave us for other reasons, for various reasons that are complicated, but it's been hard to keep them in
Keep it
there.
filled.
So,
Okay.
as you know, there's a lot of shortages
Everywhere.
across the state,
Yep.
and it's tough, especially if we're offering a position that's only for 1 year or the rest of the year.
I hear
It's
you.
hard for folks to find folks, so, but we keep trying.
Thanks.
So, thank you.
All right, budget directive.
There's a memo in your packet from me for budget directive. Obviously, we had a lot of conversation tonight about what our needs are for our kids next year going forward. As a result of that, I'm recommending that the school committee provide a directive for an educationally sound budget, one that includes new personnel, programs, and services to meet the needs of our students. The ESSER funds will primarily run out at the end of this fiscal year, as we've discussed tonight, and there are positions that our administrative team would like to be considered in the FY24 operating budget. But I'll happy to hear any comments or suggestions from the committee.
Any questions or comments? Mrs. Griffin?
I want to advocate that we have like a budget of need. I mean, I'm hearing right now that we have class sizes that are going to increase, and it seems like Ms. Trainer painted a clear picture this evening that we have very needy students, And if we need supports in classrooms, so those classrooms are functioning, I think we have to advocate to our constituents that we might need an override. I hate to say these things, we haven't had to say it for years, but if that's really what it comes down to,
Well, that's what they're at, the educationally sound budget is one that's gonna include new personnel, programs and/or services to meet the needs of all our students. So that's really what, hopefully, we will see when we come to the budget meetings that we have coming up soon, that they're advocating for what they need, and then our job is to, help try to find that money. So if we
Yeah.
have to get to a conversation down the line, that's what we do.
I think to your point, Phil, right, if what they show us is the need is so great that we need to advocate for an override, absolutely, I think that's where we go.
Mrs. Forbes?
I was just gonna make a motion to, accept and vote for the level service budget.
I know Mr. Scanlon has been here all night, poor guy.
educational
Oh, I'm
sound.
sorry, educationally sound budget. It says
Okay, you
level
make
service
it,
in my
let me,
letter.
okay, you made a motion, does somebody want
I'll
to second it?
second that.
All right. Discussion? Before the discussion, I don't know, Mr. Scanlon, is there anything you want to come up and say at the mic? Why don't you come all the way up, Joe?
And the word override.
Gotta get you up, you've been down on that chair for 2.5 hours, gotta stretch you out.
Having worked in Wachusett, having dealt with folks in Rutland, you don't say the word override very, carefully. We need to build an educationally sound budget, and then the town will help us figure out how to pay for it. They've got other resources, maybe free cash, different things. Obviously, we think the override is it's a tool, because once it's passed, it becomes a permanent part of the town's budget going forward. So it's just, I didn't want anybody watching on TV saying the school's coming in for an override.
Right.
We'll just put a budget together, and then we'll talk to you about how,
Right.
we need to come up with some funds for it.
Yeah, I think I was trying to say the same thing as you, yeah, we appreciate you saying that, right? We're gonna create, the school department will create a educationally sound budget, whatever that number looks like, then it's our job to go to the town and beyond to figure out what our next steps are, but thank you. All right, so we have a motion and a second, any more discussion? Call for the vote, Ms. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Forbes?
Yes.
Mrs. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
I'm a yes, 5 yes. The budget directive passes. Future and new programming and recruiting update, Mr. Lucas?
Yes, I was requested for an update on new programming and potential restructuring in our existing vocational programs. There's a handout that I put in there about the 3 programs. We do expect them to be sustainable for future years. We're excited about them. They do not qualify for Chapter 74, nor do they necessarily need to, because we have kids enrolled in it 1 year, and we believe we can absolutely put it in our budget again for next year. We do plan on offering them to our students. That's CNA, fire science, and early education and care. There are some possible new programs we're looking into. Mr. Nicky and I met with the Millbury High School principal, and Mr. Burke as well, last week to discuss about the Carpenters Union in Millbury is offering programs for students. So Mr. Zicki and I are reaching out to them and going to try to meet with them as a possible another program for our students to become involved with. We're also investigating innovation pathways with other high schools that do that. And the fields of that opportunities are manufacturing, healthcare and social assistance, business and financial, environmental and life sciences and information. Grants are available. It's something else that we're exploring. Again, 72% of our graduates last year went on to a 2 or 4 year college. But we want our kids to have opportunities at different careers and vocations that are possible. Obviously, Bay Path is a great opportunity. They have 22 Chapter 74 programs where kids can go there for their shops. It's a great education as well. But we also want to offer our kids that want to stay in Oxford programs that will benefit them beyond high school. Obviously, we want to prepare every student to go to college and have success. That's our goal. But there's also students that don't want to go to college after high school, and we need to supply opportunities for them. So that's something that we're looking into. And there's also a flyer. I put in the congratulations to Amy Granette, our nurse, for getting her state approval for our CNA program. There's a wonderful picture there of the students. That was their first day heading out to clinical, which is in Webster, which is terrific. So we're very proud of our students for that as well. And that's kind of an update on those programs and possible new programs. I'll take any questions on that if there are.
Any questions from the committee? Mrs. Griffin?
So they get their licensure, their certification, right? Do they get credit, college credit?
CNA?
Yeah.
No, they don't necessarily.
So
But they
is-
do get the certification by the end of the year.
So is there an opportunity to make these courses, if they can't be the chapter 74?
Yeah.
So they get college credit? Like, what can we do to make these courses even more beneficial for our students? So if they're going on a path into a career, you know, what's your thought?
Yeah.
No, I
Oh,
was
go
just
ahead.
gonna say, the early childhood, yes.
Yes, they do,
After they
yeah.
do the high school program, they automatically are waived and get the 3 credits for the child growth and development.
QCC.
All colleges,
Okay.
wherever you would be going. I can't speak for the CNA or for the fire science, but absolutely with early childhood, college credit for high school work. And it basically just waives their certification that they receive here waives up their first class at their first early childhood class, I should say.
And we do currently have 2 English classes where a Quinn Sig professor
That I know.
teaches our classes, so they get both high school credit and college credit. And then next semester, we're gonna have them come in and teach 2 math classes as well, to offer our kids. So they'll graduate, I'm sorry to interrupt the chair.
No, it's all right.
They'll graduate with the opportunity to have 3 credits in English and 3 in math before they even step into college or Quinn Sig.
That's awesome.
I know Mr. Burke, I think. had a
So,
comment.
yeah, and just to your comment, Al, I did come and tour a couple of the programs, but one was the fire science with Mr. Lucas. And one of the things the chief did say is that the students leaving that program will have a leg up going, if they choose to stick with that, going into what their training, I forget what their training program's called, Mike, do you remember what it was called?
No, I forget what it's called, but it's extensive, but this.
So
our
it's not college
yeah.
credit, but it's pushing them forward above students who would not have had a similar
They
program?
get a benefit.
Because it's not college they're going,
So I
they'll be
guess,
going to.
I
the
guess
training.
to what Pal was telling, September was saying, so how is it that early childhood can get that and nursing couldn't? Is that something that you could explore through?
I was just gonna say, I would assume that as long as your courses are approved by the state,
Right.
which we have a letter here saying,
Right.
because it is EEC who determines whether you're hitting all the components of that child growth and development course offered in college. So as long as you check all of the boxes, they've already learned everything. How that ever came about, I don't know. That's been in practice since.
Yeah, you have to have agreements with Quinn Sig. You can do it for courses like psychology, sociology. I'll look into it for CNA with Nurse
There-
Granette.
yeah.
She might have, because I know she's done some college teaching, so
Right.
she might have an idea for that too.
So we're sure that our
Look into it.
students are getting these credits? Like, we hear, I know you're saying this. How
Well,
do we know? Like, if we're making a statement like this, I would love the statistics that say, how many students did take advantage of that?
I think Miss Cook might have an answer.
Well, I know for like my AP classes, and I only apply to 2 colleges, but Worcester State only accepts a certain threshold for AP. So if you got a 3, some of them say no, and then if you got a 4, they're like, okay. But then also, I unfortunately switched my major. So like when I did have a nursing major, I used my like AP bio score, and it counted. But then once I switched my major, it was just didn't count anymore. So it was like unfortunate that I did that. But like AP history, if I tried to apply it when I switched my major, and it was too late because I had waited too long to apply the credits. So it's not like a definite thing, because I bet like, I don't want to say more like prestigious universities, but they probably want you to score a 5 on AP exams and not a 3.
And I know AP exams, like, that's reported by the state, so like, I'm looking right now on my phone on the DESE website, and I can tell you all the things that qualify right now here for advanced course completion, rate by subject. I wanna know, how do we qualify? Like, if we say we qualify, show me the data, show me the evidence. Like, I don't wanna just say publicly that our kids are getting this without really knowing that they're getting it. Because I don't wanna have a student that later comes and says, oh, I graduated, I got this certificate, and then they show up to their university and they're not gonna get that.
You mean for early childhood and
For
care?
early childhood, for potentially nursing, if that can happen,
Yeah,
and for science.
we haven't told anybody that CNA you get a college credit.
No, I know,
The
but
college,
for early
I don't-
childhood, we just
I
publicly
don't believe you can get college credit for our 1-year CNA program, but you do get the certification. Any child
I got that
takes
part.
the CNA course is gonna be much better prepared if they decide to go into nursing.
Right.
And have a leg up on all those students
Got
who are going
that,
to
and the
college.
fire safety, I got that you have a
Right.
leg up. I heard for your early childhood, it will waive a course.
Correct. So the requirements for the minimal teaching certificate through the Department of Early Ed and Care is your child growth and development, and 9 months experience in a licensed program. In the high school program, it's 2 years. It's the 150 hours, which equates to the 150 hours equates to the 9 months. And the coursework that they do in year 1 covers, as long as it's approved by EEC, covers everything in child growth and development. So when I leave, well, let's say in maybe April of my senior year, I've completed my 150 hours, I've completed my classroom work. My high school teacher, early childhood, needs to give me the application, which I then submit on my own to the Department of Early Ed and Care. They stamp it, they send me my certificate. When I take this certificate and say I'm already teacher certified, I had the high school program, it is, I mean, my daughter did it, so I think you just have to tell them, show them, and it's a waiver of the class.
So I
can't-
just love that to be spelled out for our families, like in our courses study book or whatever, so everybody knows what
Yeah,
they gotta
but
do.
I think to Molly's point though, it could be different at different places.
It could be.
I think that's just part of your applying and getting into your new school and setting up your schedule and kind of doing your due diligence, and then also falling back, you know, and calling your guidance counselors if you need support, or, you know, when you're
Yeah.
doing your college stuff, but I think that would probably happen there. All right, what else? A full-day preschool program update, that's on your part, Mr. Lucas?
Yes.
Do you have anything there?
Yes, I do. Couple
And
of
then
things.
And then the roof repair.
So currently, we have 51 children involved in our program right now. So currently, the district is exploring ways to expand our preschool programming for the students of Oxford. As in many districts, our early childhood team is receiving high numbers of referrals, resulting in increased evaluations and ultimately increased enrollment. Since the first day of school, 11 new IEP students have joined our classrooms, and 2 new preschool instructional aides have been hired to support our individual student and classroom needs as well. To date, our integrated preschool program consists of 2 teachers and 6 instructional aides. Our November numbers are the highest they've been in 5 years, and it is only November and still growing. We have 51 right now. Last year at this time, we had 39. The year before that, we had 34, just as a comparison. Currently, there are 17 students in the referral process, possibly requiring services and placement in our integrated preschool program. In a typical year, each classroom is slated to consist of 8 peer models and 7 IEP students. We're quickly approaching ratios that do not follow DESE guidelines, and we want to make sure we stay within those for our students. We've worked with Mr. Scanlon, I met again today, talked to Ms. Miller. We're hoping to post soon. We have some money left in Breakridge for another half of a pre-K teacher, so we can stay within those guidelines. So I wanted to alert you to that tonight, first of all. So we're hoping to work out the finances on that very soon, but that's something we're gonna need for our kids and our families. Next year, we've discussed this before about growing pre-K. We would like to add an additional classroom, which would require a classroom teacher and at least one IA, but again, that's a budget concern. We'll present that to you when it comes to budget time as well. All options to create and sustain this new classroom are currently being looked at with the help of our business manager, Mr. Scanlon. We'll also be applying for the Commonwealth Preschool Partnership Initiative, the CPPI grant. This grant aims to expand high-quality preschool by serving family needs in local high-need populations. The Student Services and Special Education Department is currently working on gathering data from families in the district, completing implementation expectations, and is projecting to submit our application this coming January once the Department of Early Education and Care finalizes the timeline for the completion of this grant. So that is something we're going to apply to. I'd like to thank Mrs. Miller. She's done a lot of research and been keeping an eye open for grants since this summer. So we're looking at that, so we will apply for that. And that's kind of our update on our pre-K program for now.
Any questions on that? All right, roof.
Okay.
Roof repair.
Roof repair, there's another packet that Helen put together for you in your handout from the MSBA, the Massachusetts School Building Authority. I'm very pleased to report that on October 26, 2022, the Board of Directors of the Massachusetts School Building Authority, also known as the MSBA, voted to invite the town of Oxford into the Accelerated Repair Program, also known as the ARP, to partner with the MSBA in conducting a schematic design study at the Alfred M. Chafee School for a potential partial roof replacement project and at the Clara Barton School for a potential partial roof replacement project. Inside your packet is the agreement we have to make with MSBA that the chair, myself, and the town manager will have to sign. We'll do that soon. We are able to fund the study from the FREC revolving account. That is our hope. There is still enough money to cover that in that account at this time, so we should be in good shape for that as well. We were going to present our capital needs, including the roofs, at Barton, Chafee, and the high school at our FinCom meeting last Thursday. Unfortunately, that was postponed due to a lack of a quorum, but we are working on a new date with that, and as soon as that happens, I'll communicate that to you guys. We'll make that presentation to FinCom. I'm happy to take any questions on it when Mr. Scanlon is here as well.
Any questions from the committee regarding the roof? All right, thank you.
And Chair, could I just clarify
Yes.
something on the roof,
Sure.
because we're public?
Yeah.
The MSBA grant will pay for the 30-year-old pieces of roof that are at Barton and Chafee, not the entire roofs, but it pays for the 30-year-old. The accelerated roof repair only qualifies if it's 30 years or older. I just want to make sure, so MSBA will not pay for the whole thing, but hopefully it'll pay for up to 80% of the 30-year-old roofs, which is about half on each of those buildings, just for clarification.
Thank you. No, that's good clarification, thank you.
And do we have like a figure right now for how much potentially would be needed
If we
for capital?
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say,
If we
yeah.
rope the roofs at Barton, Chafee, do the whole roofs there, and the big part of the high school roof over the auditorium where we've seen those visible leaks, it's gonna be about $3.5 million for a capital request
And
as
that's.
a total. MSBA hopefully will pick up up to $800,000 of that to reduce those costs.
All right, anything else? All right, moving along. Community survey results, I would, in interest of time here, I would say, can we just pause this and hold this for our next meeting? Does that pleasure the board?
Yes.
Anybody? Yes.
So is there a way that this, I think this already has been shared, right? This is already out for constituents to look at because it
Correct.
was posted with
On
our
the-
packet.
it's in the packet, yeah.
Yeah, so just for folks, if they're interested in.
Yeah.
Looking at it.
Yeah, it's out there, and then we will, we'll discuss it a little bit more if we can put it on the agenda for next time, Helen. Anybody opposed to that, Mr. Burke?
Not opposed to
No, I know,
that.
not opposed, but yeah,
No,
comment?
but just one, when we're talking about the agenda for next time, is it easy enough when you send us the agenda, Helen, for us to do the one-call email thing? I don't know what you call it in this district.
It's one
Email
call,
blast
yeah,
that
one
goes
call,
to
yeah,
all
it's-
families?
it's called one call,
Is it
yeah.
one call?
Yeah, right? It's one
To
call,
then
isn't it? Yeah.
email blast the agenda to all the families at the same time? That you just send it to us? Thank you. That's just
Okay.
coming from the
Yep.
survey, but
Yep.
the rest of it we can talk about later.
Okay. Fall coffee workshop, I know we talked about a couple dates, did you, Helen, were there any dates that we had?
No.
We were just kinda, it was just kinda informal talking at that meeting, right?
I'd see what one of the last.
Oh, one of the last
The
questions.
survey
I'm sorry.
results, exactly.
All right, so if somebody wants to.
So it's right
pick
here.
that up.
It looks like, I would not be interested is the most popular, 47.7%. 15.2% on a weeknight after dinner time. 17% on a weekday late afternoon / early evening, 13% on a Saturday morning. So it looks like the weekday late afternoon / early evening is the most popular.
All right, so why don't we, if this is the pleasure of the board, why don't we pause on this one too, and then we can nail down a date. It would be hard tonight to do it anyways, and with Thanksgiving coming up, and, you know, it's probably just too much going on.
We could just offer it always before school committee meetings. Like, I don't know, if we want to get more people to come,
Late afternoon, early evening.
it's late afternoon, it's early evening, we could, no, maybe not the whole board gets here, right? Because then,
All right.
but
All right.
maybe,
Yeah, good idea. So our next meeting is the 28th.
I don't know.
So why don't we offer the workshop at 5 o'clock? Yeah.
28th?
5 o'clock, 28th?
Whoever can get here, gets here, and then, you know, does that work for people?
Well, we need to know that people will be here, rather than
Well, I'll
whoever
be
can get
here.
here can get here.
We'll have one person here.
Right, but I just, you know,
Yeah, I
we
can
don't
do
wanna leave you alone every time.
28th
Dave.
works?
28th works for
5
me too.
o'clock.
Yeah? All right, so if we could advertise that, we'll have our coffee, well, I don't know what we wanna call it in the
Will
afternoon, but
that be at the beach house or here? Typically, we're over there.
Kaylee wants to know if you want the coffee and conversation videotaped as well.
oh, no, no.
It's just-
No, that's just a kind of a meet and
Informal,
greet.
right. Would that be over at the beach house though?
Do we wanna try to get the beach house? I don't know if it's,
You want to just do it here?
will we just do it here?
Okay, just
Yeah.
ask, okay.
Yeah, why don't we do it here?
Sure.
Hey, we're not gonna be in your way, are we?
No, we could, she sets up here, we
Yeah.
can just
Yeah.
set up in over here.
Yep.
Yeah.
We can meet over there.
All right, so if we could advertise that for the 28th at 5 PM, kind of a meet and greet or, you know, kind of pre-meeting get-together. Okay, great. Subcommittee reports, Policy Committee, Mrs. Griffin?
You're right on.
Did not meet, or if we met,
Yeah,
we didn't have a
we didn't have a
quorum.
quorum, so we're meeting Thursday.
And I will not be with you folks Thursday, I apologize, I have parent-teacher conferences, I think I put that out
Okay,
a few weeks back, so
all right.
I'm leaving
So
it
I
to
gotta-
you to be
I
our
gotta
fearless
chair it?
leader.
Oh,
Yeah.
great, thank you.
Sorry.
All right, DEI Committee.
All right, so I guess first and foremost, I would like to bring a couple of votes to the committee after the MASC conference that I attended the first week of November, and that Mike attended, MASC, MASS conference. Diversity, equity, and inclusion was sort of their overarching theme. So there was a lot of discussion about that, and what kept being brought to light was that belonging is the new word. Just because you're included does not mean that you belong. So our committee discussed it at our meeting last Tuesday and would like to ask the school committee to revise our name to the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Subcommittee. Again, we had talked about diversity, equity, and belonging. No other groups seem to be dropping the inclusion piece, so we're gonna make our acronym a little bit longer if it's the pleasure of the group.
I think it's a great idea. Do we need a motion to approve that? Yes, so does somebody want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the name change to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging.
Do we have a second? And we have a second from Ms. Cook. Any discussion? Call for the vote. Ms. Cook? Yes. Mrs. Forbes?
Yes.
Mrs. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
I'm a yes.
Okay.
5-0. Do you have any updates from the
Well, I have another vote for you guys.
EEIB? Oh, we have another vote?
We have another vote.
Oh,
So I
okay.
have two students who came forward who would like to be voted in as members. Kayla Belmore and Emma Martin were present at our last meeting, love what we do, want to be a part of it, so they want to get voted in tonight as new members. And also, I have a CPAC parent, Mrs. Adams, and also another parent who is overseas and joins us on
Remote?
some computer device. His name is Luke Tozer. So if I could get a motion to accept the 4 new members to the DEIB subcommittee, that would be wonderful.
Make that motion to accept the 4 new members.
All right, that motion was made. Is there a second? Second from Ms. Cook. Any discussion? Call for the vote. Ms. Cook? Mrs. Forbes?
Yes.
Mrs. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
I'm a yes. 5 yes. Welcome to the new members, and thank you for your volunteering. We appreciate that. Now, do you have an update for your for the committee, or just?
Well, yes and no. CPAC was our target group. We wanted to get some information from a parent speaker. You know, we invite guest speakers in to talk about their struggles with our district and different things that have gone on. Didn't go exactly the way it was intended to go. So we will be revisiting that. The group always learns something, and we always find ways that we need to improve, which is really what came out of that meeting. There was a lot of discussion about struggles of parents, whether or not their child has special needs, dealing with, again, the technology piece and sort of the consistency or inconsistency across the board as your children get older and have more than 1 or 2 primary teachers. So, as I said, it wasn't necessarily focused on what we typically would, but again, we're running the marathon. So we have a charge that is before our group, and we have people who are working on that. And I just want to always throw out the invitation. We're looking for new members. We'd love to have people from diverse groups and the groups that we're looking to, you know, help get into the fold.
What's the best way for them? Just to email you?
They can email me or Helen
Okay.
or Mr. Lucas or any of you.
Great,
I regularly give out all your email addresses, just saying.
great. Well, thank you. Mrs. Griffin, personnel and negotiations, excuse me, Mrs. Forbes, personnel and negotiations. Any updates?
Negotiations are ongoing with the OEA.
Negotiations are ongoing with the OEA. All right, thank you. School buildings and safety, Ms. Cook? Yeah, we have nothing, but we thank Sergeant Gurnett
Did I miss something?
It's gonna be in the members forum. Yeah.
Oh, my
I
apologies.
want to thank Officer, Sergeant Grenett, excuse me, for coming out tonight and giving us an update. Really great news. It sounded like we have a lot of great things going on in our building, so thank you, Mr. Lucas.
Thank you.
As well, district accountability and curriculum, I know we went 5 or 6 rounds tonight. Is there anything you guys want to add from your meeting?
That was our meeting. We had a great group there. We had a couple of new
Amazing.
members, and I think every member of that committee
Spoke.
participated that night, had great voice and insight that night, so it was a really good meeting.
Great, good to hear. All right, we do have a warrant report, Mrs. Griffin.
So I have a warrant report for this evening, November 14th, 2022. I signed a payroll warrant on October 27th for $700,052.45. An accounts payable warrant dated November 1st, 2022 for $158,378.67. An accounts payable warrant for November 8th, 2022 for $97,859.63. A payroll warrant for November 10th, 2022 for $648,301.54. And an accounts payable warrant dated November 15th, 2022 for $73,984.87. And that is all.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Griffin. Members forum, Ms. Cook.
Chair,
Oh,
I
yes,
apologize.
yeah, go
I
ahead.
left out one thing.
Sure.
This committee donated the lift from the middle school to the DPW, and I got a thank you email from several folks in town. I promised them I would publicly
Yeah,
thank
please,
you
thank
guys.
you.
So our town manager, Jen Callahan, Jared Duval, our head of the DPW, and Chief Sad of the Oxford Police Department would all like to personally thank the school committee and their membership for their donation of the lift from the middle school to the DPW so that our town's vehicles can better be served and kept safe. It is much appreciated by everybody in their department, so
Thank
I just
you.
want to publicly thank
I
all of you.
appreciate that.
So thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Ms. Cook, members forum.
That was a lot to take in that was like 3 hours, but like I appreciate Corey and Pal's work and Tara's on all the information that was presented to us, and hopefully we can move in the right direction with providing support for the students, because I definitely know, like, as a younger individual, I require that support, which then helped me be where I am today. So I appreciate that they're still doing something like that for the kids, and thank you everyone for all your hard work. That was just a lot taken in 3 hours, so I don't have much to say.
Awesome, thank you. Tamara.
All right, so, I had a great time at the MASC conference, learned a lot, DEI, got a lot of really great info that I'll be sharing with that group. I want to congratulate our football team moving into the Final Four. That's awesome. Have a picture with the trophy from Friday night if anybody'd like to see it. I want to say thank you to all the staff who provided the parent-teacher conferences this week. So important for parents now to be able to be back in the school, to see teachers face-to-face. It makes for long days for the staff and the teachers, but it's greatly appreciated by the parents as well as by the school committee. Thank you to the Booster Club, to the PTO representatives, and even to those who weren't here today. What they do is great for our kids, our schools, our clubs, and everything, and it's a lot of hard work that goes unnoticed a lot of times. And I would like to say on our list, the Booster Club meetings were not there. The date, it is the first Thursday of every month, if everybody'd like to take note of that. The date and time,
Yeah, I
we're
saw-
on
I
all of
noticed
them
that,
except for
yeah,
that one. Congratulations to the middle school on 75 pounds of candy being donated. That's really impressive. And I am blown away that the Oxford High School well exceeded their goal in their sock drive. That's amazing. And Miss Nugent always does such a great job with all of that. And lastly, I wanted to talk about these life backs. One of our DEI members, actually, who was supposed to be here tonight, has offered to donate these, one to each of our school nurses. However, donations must be accepted through the school committee. She was supposed to be here tonight to talk about this and the importance of this. These kits do not belong to us right now. She just asked me to bring those for a show and tell so that you all could look at the device itself, see their instructions inside, and there would certainly be training for the nurses if in fact the school committee would approve, and I don't know that we can do that tonight.
We'll defer. Okay.
Right, so she was gonna come forward just during members forum, but is unable to be here, so, These cost about $60 a piece, and we have somebody who would love to donate them to us. So if we could put that on the agenda for a vote for next time, if it's
Yeah.
through the chair, of course.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We can
And I
put
do
that
need to
on the-
collect those and give them back.
Yep.
If we don't accept them, they're not
Oh,
ours.
thank you, thank you very much.
And I think this is very important. It was part of the first aid that we received here through the district. They just showed us and talked about a situation where an EMT had one in his car and saved a life in a restaurant.
Yeah.
And that life would not have been saved had he not had that in his car. So
Great.
I think it's a great thing to have.
Wow, It's awesome, thank you
That is
so much.
All right.
Anything else?
That is it for me.
Oh, excellent
Told you I
job.
needed my own meeting tonight.
No, you did a great job. Val?
Just gratitude to Tara for her presentation. I know it's a lot of hard work, and I think that our teachers are doing an excellent job, and it's not easy. You know, none of this is easy, and I know everybody's heart's in the right place, and everybody's trying to do the right thing, and I know I could be a loudmouth advocate for everything that I think is the best, but that doesn't necessarily make it the best. So, you know, again, I say what's on my mind. I'm a very open book. I'm very transparent. I know I'm a lot to take, and I apologize to all of you that have to be around me.
I appreciate your acknowledging that.
Oh, I know I have issues. I know I have issues, and I own them.
Thank
So thank you all.
Thank you. Mr. Burke?
No, nothing to add that hasn't already been said. I think they did a great job.
Yeah, me neither. September does such a great job of capturing everything that needs to be said, and I hate to just use the easy way out at 9 o'clock, but ditto to what's September said. Thank you very much. You always capture it really well, and just thanks to the people who came out tonight, particularly the parents. So important, such a great piece to what makes all of it happen each and every day. So thank you. Final public comment. I am going to open up the floor for final public comment. Seeing and hearing nobody from the public, I will close the floor for final public. Our next regular meeting will be the 28th, November 28th. I do need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. Ms. Cook, call for the vote.
Yes.
Ms. Cook, Mrs. Forbes.
Yes.
Mrs. Griffin.
Yes.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
And I'm a yes, 5 yes. Thank you very much. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.